It all kicks off in a training gym, where the sound of quick footsteps echoes across the court. Suddenly, two fists collide with a massive thud during an intense exchange of blows. Our MC Soo-hong is putting the pressure on his sparring partner, landing a rapid-fire combo against his defense. Stumbling back in pain, the other guy complains that the last attack hurt like heck. Impressed, he notes his buddy's improvement and asks about the technique's level, but Soo-hong informs him he already reached subtle mastery 2 days ago. This subtlety is the third of 5 power levels in this world's martial arts. Pumped up, his friend gives him a thumbs up, guaranteeing that no one else in their class can hold a candle to the MC in this specific technique. Without missing a beat, the kid drops back into a fighting stance, asking if the break's over so they can get back to it. His partner makes a run for the locker room, calling him a maniac and saying he's going home to grab a bite. On his way out, the guy says goodbye to Teacher Lee, who tells him to get properly dressed before running around like that. The instructor then walks over to Soo-hong and brings up his application for the martial division. He questions why he still hasn't paid the 30,000 yuan fee, since the deadline is next Monday. The young man tries to ask for a few more days, but the teacher expresses regret about his family's financial situation and stresses that rules are rules. A heavy silence fills the room after that final refusal. Isolated in the middle of the giant court, the harsh reality of the kid's circumstances becomes crystal clear. Now alone, he starts shadowboxing again out of frustration, his mind fixated on the 30,000 yuan he desperately needs to come up with. He remembers losing his parents during a wild beast disaster when he was just 3 years old. Since then, he was taken in by his aunt and uncle, who bet everything on his training as soon as they discovered his natural talent for fighting. After all, in an era overrun by terrifying monsters, martial artists are the ones making the big bucks. Despite training to give them a good life, the young man feels an enormous weight on his shoulders, thinking he's only making things harder for his own family. Later, night falls over the humble apartment complex where the kid lives. As he reaches his front door, he overhears his uncle suggesting they delay the rent payment so they can cover their nephew's registration fee first. The man believes so much in Soo-hong's potential that he refuses to be an obstacle in the kid's promising future. His aunt even suggests she stop buying her own medicine to save money, but her husband refuses and promises to pick up an extra job to handle the expense. Listening to all this sacrifice from outside, the MC's heart sinks. He slaps his own face a couple of times to shake off the sadness and fix his posture before walking into the living room. Pretending everything is fine, he greets his family, and his aunt immediately worries about how tired he must be from training so late. They insist he go straight to his room, lovingly fussing over him so he'll have energy for the next day. The night wears on as the pale moonlight illuminates the window of the quiet bedroom. Lying in bed, unable to sleep, he decides his aunt and uncle have already done more than enough, and that he's going to solve this money problem on his own. Racking his brain for a quick way to get tens of thousands of coins, in just a few days, Soo-hong concludes there's only one possible solution. The next day, the morning light reflects off the imposing facade of a downtown building. This place is the underground fight club, where the announcer is hyping up the crowd for a brutal, no-rules challenge where only victory matters for survival. In the center of the ring, the announcer introduces the current star, who's been dominating the arena, a fighter known as the Minotaur. Wearing a red mask with horns, our MC focuses on the 60,000 prize reserved for anyone who can secure 4 straight wins. In the stands, the crowd is totally writing off the masked newcomer, thinking he's walking straight into his own funeral by taking on such a crazy challenge right off the bat. The organizer leans in and tells the kid to hype up the crowd, leaving him completely clueless about how to do that. Annoyed by his lack of experience, she teaches him that he needs to taunt and talk trash to get the better's attention. Getting the message, he puffs out his chest and yells that he's unbeatable against anyone below the official martial artist level. The taunt works instantly, getting the spectators all fired up and dying to see the newbie get his butt handed to him in the ring. Satisfied with the chaos, the announcer finally declares the start of the match as the entire gym calls for our hero's head. Keeping his cool, the kid assesses the bloodlust in the air, confident that his special technique will secure the money for his school registration. Right off the bat, a huge brute leaps towards Soo-hong, promising to teach the arrogant rookie a lesson. Coolly analyzing the charge, the MC spots flaws in his opponent's stance and concludes this will be an easy takedown. The enemy throws a powerful punch, cursing the kid for looking distracted in the middle of a life or death battle. Without breaking a sweat, Soo-hong dodges the enemy's attack at the last second with an incredibly fluid motion. Taking advantage of the wide open guard, he counters with a clean shot right to the big guy's chin. The devastating impact sends the opponent flying backward through the air like a rag doll. The giant crashes to the arena floor out cold, and the announcer quickly declares the masked man's first victory. The audience is absolutely stunned by how easily he scored the knockout, their tone shifting from scorn to pure shock. A new, scar-covered challenger climbs into the ring, claiming the rookie's lucky streak ends with him. Confident, the MC beckons him forward, wanting to use this big lug to test the destructive limits of his special punch. With that, the muscular blonde charges forward, unleashing a fierce attack straight at the kid. The two clash fists with tremendous brutality, creating a shockwave that sweeps across the court. Despite feeling the impressive force of the blow, the enemy thinks his own physical strength is still far superior to the rookie's. However, after easily absorbing the impact, the kid is already setting up a quick counter right to the brute's face. He notices that his opponent's over. The top stance has left his waist completely exposed for a finisher. Without wasting a second, our hero sinks his fist into the enemy's stomach with absurd, concentrated force. The punch is so violent it sends the blonde guy flying to the other side of the arena, leaving everyone speechless at the attack's raw power. Another body hits the floor, and the organizer excitedly screams out our hero's second consecutive victory. The bright marquee outside the club continues to draw attention from the street to the spectacular fight happening inside. In a special viewing area, wealthy men watch the action, remarking that the kid is terrifyingly strong for someone without an official rank. The announcer is already calling the third straight win, leading the suits to plan on using the kid to throw fights in the future. The big boss sends his henchmen to recruit the young fighter, but warns him to hide his true, advanced strength during the fight. Meanwhile, in the center of the arena, our panting hero concludes that his refined technique is just too much for the common fighters in this division. Facing the final stretch, he motivates himself, knowing he just needs one more knockout to get his hands on that 60,000 yuan jackpot. Suddenly, a fighter in a suit and a white fox mask appears, surprising everyone with the interruption. The crowd immediately recognizes that the guy in the suit is almost at a master's level, calling the matchup completely unfair to the kid. Realizing this new challenge is far more dangerous, the MC grits his teeth and swears he absolutely cannot lose. On the other side, his suited opponent maintains a confident posture, assured of his own insane advantage. Showing complete composure, the villain adjusts his suit, making it clear he has full command of his superior skills. The two opponents face off, marking the start of the decisive round for the big cash prize. As soon as the signal is given, they charge at each other in an aggressive clash across the middle of the gym. Knowing he's at a major level disadvantage, the young man decides to pour all his energy into the first blow to try and catch his opponent off guard. The two fists finally collide in a ridiculous explosion, shaking the entire arena with the crushing impact of their final confrontation. Feeling the insane impact of the blow, Su-hong immediately realizes his enemy's strength is not that of a common fighter. He understands right away that the suited man is a real martial artist, and is deliberately suppressing his own power. Across from him, the fox-masked rival takes a deep breath and prepares his lethal technique. Without wasting a moment, the villain lunges forward and lands a devastating series of punches square on the MC. The impact is so violent that the kid spits up blood, completely floored by the brutal strength of this level. In the stands, the crowd instantly recognizes the advanced technique and already considers the rookie a goner. Pressing his attack relentlessly, the suited man mocks the situation, telling the kid to stop defending and actually fight. Our hero focuses entirely on blocking the heavy impacts, knowing that if he keeps this up, he's going to lose badly. Taking advantage of the villain's aggression, he patiently waits for the perfect moment to land a counter-attack. Just then, his opponent throws another powerful punch that stops dead against the MC's tight guard. With the opening created by the close proximity, Su-hong unleashes his own fist with blinding speed. The clean hit lands squarely on the suited man, sending his body flying to the other side of the ring. Even after landing the blow, the kid is completely exhausted and feels his own consciousness starting to fade. However, the villain lands smoothly on his feet and taunts him, saying the prize for this fight will be 0. He proposes that the rookie agree to throw fights for his boss in exchange for the money, but Su-hong instantly refuses the dirty offer. The masked man tells him to think it over, warning that refusing the deal will have serious consequences. Without backing down, the MC insults the enemy's cowardly attitude and questions if they're even real martial artists. Annoyance spreads across the suited man's face as he understands the kid's final refusal. At that moment, the villain charges forward with full fury, promising to finish the rookie once and for all. With his eyes shining with determination, Su-hong focuses on his ultimate goal of reaching the pinnacle of martial arts. The suited man unleashes an aggressive flying kick, but our hero quickly slides across the floor to dodge it. Suddenly, a mysterious energy surrounds the kid, and a voice asks if he will pay the price, to which he agrees to give it his all. In the blink of an eye, the entire scene vanishes and the MC finds himself floating in a dark space. Completely confused by the abrupt change, he looks around, trying to figure out what this bizarre place is. Right in front of him, a giant, luminous entity appears out of nowhere, illuminating the entire void. The imposing figure stares down at the kid and declares that it will grant him the chance he's been seeking. With that promise, an intense light cuts through the space, transforming the dark void into a golden hall. Just then, a huge holographic screen floats up and stops right in front of the stunned hero. Observing it closely, he realizes the panel displays all his physical attributes and the techniques he has mastered. Intrigued by the technology, he tries to touch the glowing interface to see how this bizarre system works. The kid then selects the first available mission on the luminous panel to test it out. The screen explains that time in the real world is frozen while he trains here to perfectly master his techniques. He gets curious about the reward listed right as an identical clone, made of light starts materializing next to him. Without giving him time to think, the perfect copy immediately drops into a fighting stance with incredible agility. The clone throws a violent punch that rips through the air, demonstrating a frightening command of the technique. Analyzing the movement, the kid realizes the copy is using his special punch with absolute, flawless precision. Thrilled by the demonstration, he sees a golden opportunity to perfect his own style. Without hesitation, our hero clenches his fist and unleashes the same attack, trying to mimic the clone's precision. The two begin training side by side, with the kid following every detail of the luminous copy's posture. However, during a rapid sequence, the MC messes up his guard and ends up getting the worst of it in the training session. Even after the mistake, the luminous copy returns to its initial stance, waiting for the young man's next attempt. Looking at the panel, he's shocked to see his proficiency in the technique has jumped to 10%. In that moment, it hits him that this virtual space is the perfect shortcut to level up his skills in an instant. Determined to get the most out of the system, the kid charges the clone, engaging in a frantic exchange of blows. The intense training continues, with our hero repeating the attacks to exhaustion as the numbers on the screen keep climbing. The MC's stubborn dedication brings his mastery of his techniques ever closer to the maximum level. Just then, he executes a perfect palm strike, achieving total mastery of the move in a burst of energy. Immediately after, the kid speeds across the golden hall and completely masters his movement technique. To top it all off, he hits the clone with a final punch, reaching the maximum level for his primary weapon. With all his skills maxed out, he stops, panting, in the center of the hall, feeling the weight of the extreme training. Satisfied with the results, the kid thanks the copy, and the panel asks if he wishes to return to the real world. In the blink of an eye, time resumes in the arena, and our hero reappears, facing the suited villain. Suspecting nothing, his enemy scoffs at the kid's silence and throws another swift punch at his face. Using the momentum, the suited man unleashes a brutal sequence of electric attacks to crush his rival's defense. However, the MC dodges the blows with absurd ease, finding his enemy's speed to be pathetic. The fox-masked villain starts to break out in a cold sweat, completely shocked that he's just punching air. Using his newfound mastery, our hero sinks a devastating punch straight into his opponent's face, shattering his mask. The force of the impact is so monstrous that the young fighter's true, dominant presence takes over the entire court. The violence of the counter-attack leaves the entire crowd in absolute, disbelieving silence. With the suited man knocked out on the floor, the masked rookie remains standing, declaring his absolute victory in the arena. Breaking the tense atmosphere, the champion looks at the announcer and demands the prize money he just won. In the VIP area, the rich boss holds a glass of wine, impressed by the advanced technical mastery of a mere apprentice. Greatly interested in the kid's talent, the suited man orders his bodyguards to follow the fighter and find out who he is. Meanwhile, our hero walks calmly through the dark city alleys on his way back home. With his senses sharpened, he quickly notices the presence of strangers tailing him on the empty street. The henchmen sneak up to the dark corner, only to realize their target has suddenly vanished. The men look around nervously, knowing they have to follow their boss's orders no matter what. High above them, the MC leans against the alley walls and scoffs at their pathetic attempt to track him. After shaking off the spies, the night progresses silently over the humble apartment complex. An hour later, the lights in the family's small home illuminate the street, confirming the young fighter's safe arrival. In the living room, his uncle's eyes go wide at the giant pile of cash on the table, and he asks if his nephew robbed a bank. To calm his family down, the kid makes up a story that his dojo master was so impressed with his talent that he fronted the cash. The next day, the school routine is back to normal, with the gym packed with students for another morning of activities. In the crowd, classmates whisper curiously, trying to figure out why one of the students showed up all banged up. A student gossips that the kid broke a piece of equipment and took the fall for it, while the principal shouts for silence. On the gym stage, the principal introduces the level 3 martial artist, Chen Tian, who has been invited to teach the C-rank technique called Thunder Fist. The students are thrilled to see a master of this caliber, commenting that dojos charge a fortune for this kind of training outside of school. Watching the scene, Su-hong remembers the masked villain used this same skill and recognizes the absurd power of that impact. Knowing about the sky, high fees charged elsewhere, the MC decides he absolutely cannot let this huge opportunity slip away. The master cuts off the class chatter, announcing he will demonstrate the move 10 times, and the rest is up to their individual effort. With that, the instructor steps forward, assuming a flawless combat stance. He throws a violent punch explaining that the technique is fierce and, at the basic level, emits a loud thunderclap. Continuing his explanation, he details that the proficient level generates 3 sounds, and the subtle level achieves 5 consecutive sonic impacts. Unleashing an impressive energy throughout the gym, Chen Tian reveals his current mastery produces 7 sounds with each blow. He mentions that the perfect realm hits 9 sounds, but warns the students not to aim too high, as the basic level is more than enough. Beginning the second demonstration, the master tells the class to follow his movements, creating chaos as students try to copy his stances. Several hours later, the kids collapse on the floor from sheer exhaustion, complaining that it's completely impossible to get the hang of the technique. One of the boys sits panting on the court and concludes, discouraged, that C-rank skills are way too hard to learn. Looking for his friend, he notices Su Hong has suddenly disappeared, right as a massive boom echoes through the entire building. Excited, a student named Chen Shan celebrates reaching the basic level, earning praise from his classmates for his extraordinary intelligence. The principal praises the boy as the school's genius, but the master scoffs, finding the result merely acceptable by his standards. The conversation continues outside the main school facilities. Chen Tian laments that the class is too weak, and that he wasted his time here, since mastering the basics doesn't make anyone a true prodigy. Walking through the courtyard, he reinforces that martial cultivation is cruel, and effort alone can never overcome a lack of natural talent. Suddenly, a rapid sequence of violent booms interrupts the teacher's walk. Nearby, Su Hong is training alone and catches the attention of someone shocked to see a mere student achieving 7 sounds with the technique. Throwing non-stop punches, the MC hits 9 sounds, leaving the master absolutely floored by such mastery in so little practice time. The teachers stand frozen, listening to the booms from the court, while the principal asks if he really heard those 9 absurd impacts correctly. Confident in his discovery, the master claims he has finally understood the missing secret in his own training. He clenches his own fist, concentrating sparks of pure, destructive energy in his hands. Without a second thought, he unleashes the technique with renewed vigor and surprising aggression. Thrilled to have reached 8 sounds, he thanks the student's inspiration for helping him break through his limit after being stuck at the same level for so long. Ignoring all conversation, Chen Tian bolts across the courtyard, desperate to find the identity of the mysterious prodigy. However, when they arrive at the empty training court, they're left confused, searching for the person responsible for that extraordinary feat. Far away, the kid is already running through the streets, exhausted, feeling the immense strain on his body from cultivating such an advanced technique. Checking the notifications on his system, our hero notes that he has maxed out the technique and concludes he needs friendly spars to earn martial points. Following his plan for rapid growth, he arrives at the imposing entrance of the Raging Thunder Dojo in the city center. Inside, the atmosphere is pure chaos, with students exchanging aggressive and noisy blows using training spears and staffs. A classmate approaches, asking the reason for his surprise visit, and the young man calmly replies that he's just here to practice a bit. Just then, an arrogant fighter with purple hair kicks a student in the chest, sending the poor guy flying violently against the wooden floor. The aggressor mocks the defeated, telling them to stop blaming the master's lessons and just accept they're too weak to learn how to fight. Su Hong asks what's going on, and his classmate explains that the new instructor is strong but teaches begrudgingly and completely despises the poorer students. He also cautiously warns that this guy's disciple, named Lian, is extremely dangerous and ruthless in matches. Noticing the side conversation, the purple-haired fighter taunts our hero, doubting he's skilled enough to handle a real challenge. Without any warning, the jerk lunges forward, throwing a quick punch straight at the newcomer's face. The MC blocks the attack with the utmost ease and politely asks his rival to end the trouble right there. Annoyed by the solid defense, Lian tells him to let go of his fist and challenges him to a one-on-one duel in the arena, a challenge the kid accepts on the spot. In this tense moment, the arrogant master enters the hall, demanding absolute silence because his class is about to begin. Following his superior's order, the disciple slowly backs away, warning the rookie that he was lucky to escape a beating this time. Facing the conceited attitude of the two instructors, our hero feels quite bothered by the overwhelming arrogance dominating the dojo's atmosphere. The jerk master announces with an air of superiority that this is the last day for the spear technique, and that he will only demonstrate it once. With an incredibly fluid and precise spin, he executes the move, cutting through the air in front of all the very attentive students. Perfectly copying the demonstrated posture, Su Hong tests the weapon and immediately reaches the proficient level of the technique through his system. The tip of the kid's spear destroys the sturdy training target with a clean, swift, and absolutely devastating impact. Shocked by the absurd progress of a mere martial arts rookie, Lian charges, swinging his own spear with hatred. The two weapons clash sharply in mid-air, generating intense sparks of energy in the middle of the crowded training hall. Receiving new points on his glowing panel, our hero celebrates, confirming that friendly spars yield exactly the reward he so desperately needs. Completely outmatched in the exchange, his rival falls to his knees, muttering that it's impossible for someone to master the move so quickly. Desperation takes over the fighter as he feels that all his years of hard, sweaty training were for absolutely nothing. Completely losing his mind, he abandons his broken spear and charges with empty fists, trying to hit the MC any way he can. The kid prepares a clean punch to end the fight for good, but the instructor screams desperately, ordering them to stop the fight immediately. The master rushes to the center of the court, breaking up the ugly fight between the two students before things could get worse. Without a shred of pity, the older man slaps his disciple across the face, harshly scolding him for not knowing how to accept his own defeat. The aggressor turns his head, feeling the sharp sting of the blow and the crushing weight of public humiliation in front of everyone. Analyzing the spear stuck in the wooden floor, the teacher admits impressed that the rookie learned everything just by watching the demonstration once. Quickly changing his tune, the master apologizes for the mess and says that getting beaten by a true genius will do wonders for his apprentice's character. The MC breaks into a cold sweat, noticing the clear phoniness and how quickly that teacher changes his opinion just for convenience. Walking back home through the deserted night streets, he feels his body is quite heavy, but admits that all of today's effort was worth it. Looking at the new rewards floating in his system, the young man is fully satisfied to have learned 2 new techniques at once. The next day in front of the school, he concludes that he urgently needs to get an alloy weapon to match the advantage of the rich kids in the practical exam. Mimicking the firm grip of a spear in his empty hands, he decides to invest in this type of piercing equipment for the test. However, upon checking his bank account on his phone, he realizes the money barely covers his aunt's expensive medicine, making the purchase of the desired weapon impossible. Standing in front of a random shop, the kid racks his brain trying to find a new source of income to fund his training. He then reads an ad in the window recruiting brave martial artists to hunt beasts on the outskirts in exchange for large and generous rewards. Interested in the pile of cash offered, he seriously considers risking his own life to face terrifying monsters outside the city walls. The quiet afternoon arrives, covering the windows of the family's housing complex with an orange sunset glow. In the living room, his aunt scolds her husband for working so hard without a break, but he insists he needs to save everything he can to secure his nephew's future. Arriving home right in the middle of the argument, our hero greets his aunt and uncle, easing the tension and ending the loving couple's little squabble. He takes the heavy groceries from the woman's hands, insisting she rest on the couch, showing his unconditional respect and affection for his family. The kid firmly assures them that he can now support the house on his own, but his uncle claps him on the shoulder, laughing and saying he can't just sit around doing nothing. His uncle flashes a smile and gives a thumbs up, promising he won't work himself to the bone doing odd jobs. At that, his aunt adds lovingly that they need to save as much as possible for their nephew's promising future. Looking at his phone, Suhong reflects that his family is used to poverty and will never relax without money in the bank. He coldly concludes that he can't pass up this golden opportunity of hunting beasts to make some good money fast. Aware of the immense dangers of the wild areas, the kid decides to spend all his accumulated points on vitality for protection. With the heavy energy flowing through his body, he notes that he is just one step away from becoming a real martial artist. 2 full days of hard training pass, and the MC finally reaches the perfection level in all his techniques. Panting from the continuous effort, he realizes his preparations are complete, and it's time to act. That same Saturday morning, the kid arrives at the imposing martial artist's base, finding the walk quite tiring. Walking through the place, he comments that he's seen the building on television thousands of times. But this is his first actual visit. The place is completely packed with huge, armed fighters, the kind of people you'd rarely bump into in the city. Analyzing the holographic board at the counter, our hero discovers that advanced, level beasts can fetch up to 9,000 blue coins. But he finds the reward system a bit gross and primitive, since he has to cut off the monster's ear as proof of the kill. Waiting in line at the counter, the rookie watches a hunter hand a giant, full sack to the clerk for evaluation. Suddenly, an aggressive shout echoes through the crowded lobby, telling everyone to get out of the way immediately. Just then, the MC notices a cocky group approaching, and the crowd quickly recognizes the presence of young Master Ye. Staring at the rich kid in a suit, he senses a familiar aura and instantly remembers the guy with the fox mask from the underground arena. The crowd gossips that this rich kid's uncle got beaten up badly a few days ago, and the kid finds it amusing, thinking it was well deserved. Not wanting to stir up trouble so early, our hero turns and quietly slips away in the opposite direction. Behind him, the arrogant young man smirks, seeming to suspect something strange is in the air. Now in the dangerous wilderness, a giant white wolf leaps fiercely, trying to devour the unsuspecting rookie. Maintaining absolute calm, Suhong quickly slides across the ground, dodging the deadly attack at the last second. He concentrates his energy in his hand, preparing his thunder technique at maximum power for a counterattack. Taking advantage of the beast's open guard, the kid sinks his electric fist straight into the wolf's body with absurd violence. The impact sends the monster flying through the air, causing it to crash hard into a distant tree on the other side of the forest. Observing the fallen carcass, our hero realizes that hunting monsters in the real world is much more exciting than he had imagined. Shaking with pure adrenaline, the rookie checks his own fists, feeling the power of victory coursing through his veins. Since he took down the monster with a single simple blow, the desire to test his own strength against something more dangerous takes over. Right at that moment, a giant intermediate stage black bear appears behind him, roaring loudly. Without losing his confident posture, the MC quickly resolves the problem and concludes that beasts of this level are no threat. Crouching near the bear's furry carcass, he cuts off the monster's ear, celebrating the 3,000 guaranteed for his pouch. The system then beeps, notifying him that his accumulated points are sufficient for him to finally become an official martial artist. Suddenly, a terrifying and powerful roar echoes through the dense forest, startling the kid. Feeling an incredibly heavy aura spreading, our hero breaks into a cold sweat, trying to guess what kind of bizarre monster is nearby. Driven by curiosity, the fighter nimbly leaps through the thick tree branches to check out the source of the commotion. Landing silently on top of a high rock, the rookie peeks into the clearing to assess the tense situation below. Shock takes over his eyes as he instantly recognizes the absurd creature that is wrecking the entire area. A giant black jade python is violently attacking a cornered group of hunters in the middle of the forest. The monstrous snake charges forward, crushing the shield of one of the warriors, who screams in pure desperation. With the overwhelming force of the blow, the poor guy is thrown like a rock straight against the cliff wall. Realizing the imminent crisis, the purple-haired group leader shouts desperate orders to hold the formation steady. He bravely leaps forward, delivering a piercing attack with his spear against the wild beast's tough scales. But the serpent reacts faster, whipping its thick tail and violently sweeping the ground. Completely surprised by the absurd speed of the defense, the leader can't dodge and takes a brutal blow to his body. The impact kicks up a giant cloud of dust as the beast continues to crush the terrain without any mercy. The group leader falls to the ground, severely injured, while the kid watches everything, tense and hidden on the rock. Assessing the difficult situation, the MC wipes his face and makes a risky decision to try and intervene in the carnage. He stealthily descends to the cratered ground and borrows the spear from the hands of the completely knocked out hunter. Wielding the weapon with total firmness, our hero steps into the serpent's line of sight, drawing the monster's attention. Furious with the daring new prey, the gigantic snake opens its mouth wide and lunges forward for a deadly strike. Using his newly enhanced agility, Suhong makes a quick leap backward, dodging the ground, shattering jaws. Retreating to maximum safety, the kid reflects that it would take an entire team to kill such an advanced beast. However, fully trusting his maxed-out techniques, he knows he can go head-to-head if he fights smart. With his void step at the perfect level, the young man makes an absurd leap, flying right over the snake's charge. From above, he twists his body in mid-air and unleashes his spear technique, perfectly charged with strong blue energy. The sharp tip hits the beast's thick scales, creating intense, bright sparks, but without piercing the skin deeply. Feeling the heavy pressure of the direct hit, the black jade serpent lets out a sharp hiss of pure irritation. The giant monster quickly twists its massive body, trying to crush the daring hunter while he's still in mid-air. The kid grips the wooden weapon's handle tightly, preparing for his next emergency evasive move. He lands perfectly on safe ground, enveloped in his flawless combat aura, ready for the next exchange of blows. Without giving the monster a moment to breathe, our hero locks his gaze and calls the beast back into an aggressive fight. He concentrates all his energy into the spear and delivers a violent thrust, generating a destructive aquatic whirlwind. The brutal impact hits squarely, making the giant serpent writhe in pain in the clearing. Desperate from the injury, the snake whips its tail frantically, breaking rocks while the kid dodges the blows. Sliding across the packed earth of the field, he concludes that the size difference is too unfair, and he needs to tire the beast out first. A giant shadow suddenly covers the kid, and he ducks, scraping his back on the ground to dodge the lethal tail. Finding a small but valuable opening, the MC attacks with his bare hands, unleashing the thunder fist straight at the target. Right after the electric impact deals damage, he retrieves his weapon and quickly retreats, gaining a good distance from the enemy. Sticking to his cold and calculated strategy, The young man continues the cycle of striking weak points and disappearing from the beast's sight. While the intense fight rages in the forest, young Master Yi's group finally arrives at the disaster site. The rich kid in the suit finds it amusing to see our hero fighting alone and bets with absolute certainty that he's going to die right there. But surprise soon hits him hard as he sees the rookie leaving an advanced stage beast so beaten up. Su-hong notices the arrival of the cocky intruders and finds it very suspicious that they found the dangerous monster so quickly. Without any warning, a brute from the enemy group leaps from behind the kid, intending to attack on his boss's orders. Realizing the extreme cowardice of this surprise attack from behind, the MC's gaze darkens with pure fury. Facing the henchman, Su-hong says he was only pushed because of the surprise attack and asks if they really think they can defeat him. Without wasting time, the kid unleashes a devastating electric punch straight into the cocky opponent's chest. The masked brute feels the terrifying force of the blow crushing his body, unable to defend himself. Seizing the opportunity, the MC sinks another violent attack, launching the enemy through the air. The henchman crashes violently onto the cratered ground, right in front of the scared group of hunters. Observing the technique used, one of the hunters instantly recognizes the punch and confirms that the rookie is the famous Minotaur from the arena. Just then, our hero turns his attention to young Master Yi and immediately identifies him as the guy with the white fox mask. Maintaining an arrogant posture, the rich kid comments that the kid was the first person to humiliate him so badly in front of so many people. Commanding his henchmen, the villain simply points his finger and gives the cold order to kill the MC. The rookie quickly leaps backward, scaling the rock wall, while his enemies shout to pursue him. Now deep in the dense woods, the henchmen search for their target, warning each other to be very careful of ambushes in the forest. One of the mercenaries scoffs at the caution, finding it ridiculous to be afraid of one guy with so many people on their team. In the blink of an eye, Su-hong appears stealthily, cutting through the wind right behind the distracted enemy. Our hero's eyes gleam intensely in the dark, revealing the fatal flaw in his opponent's defense. Delivering a brutal electric blow, he smashes the hunter into the ground, kicking up a curtain of dust and destruction. The mercenary's body falls, completely knocked out and bloodied, amidst the dense vegetation. Annoyed by the quick loss, young Master Yi curses the situation, not understanding how the kid can be so incredibly fast. The henchmen position themselves in front of their boss to protect him, shocked to recognize the Thunder Fist at an absurd level of perfection. The rich kid tells everyone to shut up, trembling with nervousness, finding it utterly impossible for anyone to master these techniques to the max. Watching everything from a branch above, our hero reflects that he would have crushed them all in a direct fight if he weren't exhausted from the giant snake. With no energy to fight the entire team at once, he decides to leap through the trees to hunt his enemies one by one in quick ambushes. Moving like a bolt of lightning, the young man strikes another mercenary in the back with his spear before he can even react. Immediately after, he directs a powerful kick to the face of another hunter who was right beside him. The blow lands squarely, sending the brute flying violently backward into the bushes with a destructive electric impact. Continuing the deadly sequence, the kid slices another opponent, who collapses, bleeding heavily, on the ground. Desperate from the swift massacre, the henchmen tell their boss to get out of there, but the villain thinks it's a sick joke. Staring at the rookie destroying his team, the suited man swears to himself that he must end the kid's life today, no matter the cost. Seeing the MC approaching furiously, another lackey steps in front, brandishing his knife to try and delay the mortal attack. However, the kid ignores the pathetic defense and slams his fist into the ground, creating a huge crater and shattering everything around. Shocked by the destruction, the rich kid wonders how it's possible for his opponent to have gotten so strong in just a few days. Ignoring the fallen henchman, the MC charges straight toward the enemy leader with absurd speed. Cornered and cursing his luck, the suited man gets into a fighting stance, knowing there's nowhere left to run. With his spear ready to pierce, Su-hong announces that it's finally the rich kid's turn to pay for his actions. Blocking the attack with his bare hands glowing with blue energy, the villain tells the kid not to assume victory is already his. Just then, the young master fires several cutting blasts of pure energy directly from his fingers to try and push our hero back. In a quick and fluid motion, the rookie spins the spear shaft, creating a shield to defend against the deadly shots. One of the blasts misses its target and hits a giant tree, splitting the trunk in half with a violent explosion of splinters. Pressing his opponent, the suited man fires non-stop, destroying the surrounding scenery with destructive blue lights. Dodging with difficulty, the kid admits that the level of his enemy's advanced technique must be at least Class B. Far away, the surviving members of the group watch the chaos, finding the rookie very bizarre, and trying to see if their boss has finished him off yet. Emerging from the smoke, our hero advances toward the henchman with the giant sword, while the villain chases after him, swearing he won't forgive him. Suddenly, the giant snake awakens furiously right behind the swordsman mercenary, leaving the entire group completely paralyzed with terror. The monster lunges forward, swallowing the swordsman in the blink of an eye, earning our hero dozens of martial points for this indirect kill. Another hunter is devoured in the process, screaming, and the MC thinks it's great to gain experience so easily by using the beast against them. Taking advantage of the absolute chaos created by the wild monster, the young fighter picks up the pace to disappear into the dense woods for good. Leaping away from the danger, he concludes that the points accumulated from recent fights are already enough for him to become an official martial artist. Landing firmly on a thick tree branch, he tells himself he needs to find a very safe place to focus on leveling up. Looking at the rock wall ahead, the fighter spots a dark cave and decides that hole will serve perfectly as a hiding spot. Without wasting time, our hero dives into the rock crevice as the giant snake pursues him, tearing up the earth. The wild beast slams its head with brute force against the narrow entrance, shattering the rocks in a violent explosion of dust. Safe in the deep, dark part of the hideout, the kid breathes a sigh of relief upon seeing the monster completely stuck in the tight rocks of the entrance. Furious, the serpent bares its sharp fangs, forcing its massive body through the hole in a futile attempt to reach its prey. Ignoring the deafening roars outside, the MC opens his glowing interface to begin the system's evolution process. Frantically tapping the virtual panel, he quickly spends all his points on the vitality attribute, wanting to accelerate his gains. With the drastic increase in energy, our hero's body boils with an intense reddish hue, feeling as if lava is coursing through his veins. The panel finally hits 100 points of maximum vitality as the snake watches the bizarre scene, blinking, from outside. Bathed in an aura of colossal power, the young man celebrates euphorically for having broken the barrier and become a true first-class martial artist. Turning his back to the panel, his fists sparking with heavy energy, he glares at the beast with a murderous look, warning that now it's his turn. Launching out of the cave like a missile, our hero focuses all his new, absurd power directly into his right hand, prepared for the attack. The violent punch lands squarely on the giant serpent's chin, lifting the monstrous body with an absurdly devastating impact. The blow is so powerful it generates an explosion of yellow light, sending the heavy creature flying upward with a desperate roar. Without giving the monster room to breathe, the MC charges across the field, invoking his special punch technique fully charged. He makes a gigantic leap, intercepting the snake in mid-air before it can plummet and recover from being stunned. Unleashing a heavy wave of dark, reddish energy, the kid sinks the attack into the beast's back with all his destructive will. Despite the clean hit, the extreme effort of the move makes our hero grunt and spit up a bit of blood from the absurd strain on his muscles. Pushing his body to the limit, he grips his spear with extreme firmness, preparing the final blow to finish the job. The fighter dives from the sky, delivering a crushing slash that sends the jade serpent back to the earth once and for all. The impact creates a gigantic crater, sinking the wild monster into the ground in an explosion of earth and blue sparks. Landing right after, the young man channels intense electricity through both hands, preparing a thunder technique to crush his wounded prey. The sequence of brutal lightning bolts shatters the snake's thick scales as it bellows in pure agony, feeling its final moments of life. The golden flash illuminates the entire section of the forest, wiping out any chance of survival the giant creature might have had. Standing beside the crushed carcass, the victor reflects with satisfaction that he can now go head-to-head with high-level beasts without backing down. Sitting comfortably on the slain beast, he scratches his head, trying to remember how he's supposed to collect the reward since snakes don't have left ears to cut off. Unable to find a practical solution for carrying the gross trophy, he simply abandons the carcass right there, deciding to head back to the city before nightfall. Walking confidently along the path of dense trees, the MC leaves behind a trail of destruction, carrying the weight of his new martial evolution. Staring at the suited man's corpse on the ground, Su-hong reflects that ending up like that means the guy was actually pretty lucky. He immediately starts searching the dead man's clothes, hoping to find the advanced technique that was used in the fight earlier. The search pays off, and the kid holds up a mysterious book called The Void-Piercing Finger. The scene shows the silent cave with the gigantic carcass of the defeated serpent lying in the dark water. Outside the hole, the warm glow of a campfire illuminates the cold rocks. Sitting by the fire, the MC announces that he has already memorized the basics of the new skill and will now use the system to master it quickly. He accesses his virtual space and immediately summons the light copy to begin the intense training. The luminous clone assumes the correct posture and unleashes the technique, releasing a powerful blue energy. Following each flawless movement, the kid sees the numbers on the panel rise rapidly, reaching almost 100% mastery. With his eyes gleaming with pure focus, our hero perfectly understands the flow of power and achieves basic mastery of the blow. Coughing a little from the absurd effort, he feels firsthand the heavy strain of training a B-level technique and decides to hunt a monster to test it. 3 full days pass in the forest until a giant, terrifying bear roars fiercely, challenging him to combat. Without hesitation, the young man unleashes the void-piercing finger, tearing through the wild beast with a destructive blue blast. Attracted by the commotion, a man in a suit approaches, finding it impressive that a kid could take down a high-level beast alone. The woman beside him concludes that the kid is at a basic level and accuses him of looting Master Yi's items, demanding an immediate search. The suited henchmen advance, closing in and warning the kid not to resist, or things will get ugly. Sensing the threat, the young man draws his spear with impressive agility amidst the smoke. The speed of the movement startles the mercenaries as the sharp tip locks right onto one of their necks. Maintaining absolute calm, Su-hong reveals he is a student of the city's #1 school and asks if they have the guts to proceed. The suited man breaks into a cold sweat, remembering that this school's principal is super protective of his students, and picking a fight with him is always a terrible idea. He understands that if the kid killed all those beasts, he's a dangerous genius, and offending someone like that isn't worth the risk. Masking the tension, the leader explains that his nephew was attacked and a secret family technique was stolen. He tries to resolve it diplomatically, offering 10,000 coins in compensation just to be able to search the young man's backpack. Showing he's no fool, the kid holds up 3 fingers, demanding 30,000, knowing they can't accuse him without proof of the theft. With no other choice, the men meticulously search his backpack in the middle of the dirt path. The lackey confirms he found absolutely nothing, making his boss agree to the deal and release the 30,000 coin payment. As he walks away, the MC sighs in relief for having covered his tracks in time to avoid a huge problem. While the boss orders his team to continue searching everyone, the kid plans to take a shower and head straight to the Martial Artists Association. Later, he rests in an underground hotel room, enjoying a well-deserved moment of peace. Opening the system panel, our hero is shocked to see he has accumulated 534 points after all the slaughter in the forest. He calculates that the initial stage costs 100 vitality points and concludes he'll have about 40 left before the intermediate stage. Curious about the other attributes, he decides to hold off on evolving and test putting points into spirit and mortal frame. The young man spends dozens of points on the spirit section, but is disappointed when he feels no change in his body. However, when he focuses on the mortal frame, his strength increases drastically, and he decides to invest heavily in it. The attribute hits 36%, depleting his bar as the system beeps, finalizing the transfer. Satisfied with his strengthened frame, he decides to dump the next 200 points into his core vitality. The kid doesn't waste any time and pours all the rest he's accumulated directly into the spirit tab, feeling an infinite energy bubbling up. A red explosion engulfs the room, causing his body to double in size with giant, terrifying muscles. Returning to his normal size shortly after, he sits panting on the bed, relieved not to be stuck in that bizarre brute form. An hour later, the imposing building of the Martial Artists Association gleams under the clear city sky. Su-hong arrives at the reception, stating he's there for the test, and the attendant quickly informs him that someone will escort him. An older man comments that the kid is very young for his first test and warns him about the absurd requirements to pass. Suspicious of the lone young man, the veteran assumes he's just there to try his luck since he has no master with him. Ignoring the gossip, our hero's firm gaze shows he is more than ready for the challenge. Inside the crowded hall, an alarm sounds, announcing that one of the candidates has failed, having reached 992 power. The system approves a student named Leming with 105 vitality, and the examiner calls for the physical strength test. The arrogant kid positions himself in front of the giant machine, winding up a punch with a lot of energy. He sinks his fist into the target with immense force, creating a loud boom in the room. The digital scoreboard flashes, showing 1,763 power, guaranteeing his immediate pass. The crowd is dumbfounded, praising the guy's absurd strength and hailing the training of Master Jiangming. Hearing the conversation, the MC remembers another aggressive student from the same dojo and wonders how many annoying disciples this master has. The evaluator calls Su-hong to be next, while his rival laughs sarcastically. Li Ming mocks the rookie, finding it pathetic for someone that age to try the exam, wanting to compare himself to a genius like him. But the mockery ends quickly when he sees our hero's high score on the machine, and thinks the equipment must be broken. The official announces Su-hong's pass with 123 vitality, leaving the rich kid furious. Swallowing his tears, the rival claims that vitality is useless and that combat power is the only thing that really matters. The physical test is about to begin, and the kid calmly walks toward the heavy equipment. Silently calculating his absurd attributes, he deduces that using only 40% of his strength is more than enough to pass. An employee congratulates the rookie on his success and asks him to follow him to the second floor to collect his prize. Before he can go, another man in a suit appears in the hallway, announcing that he will personally take care of the kid. A blonde woman with a commanding presence walks down the hall, being called President by the local staff. She looks intently at the kid and introduces herself as Wu Lingxian, stating that she leads the city's association. The MC follows her, completely surprised to see that a level 5 martial artist is so different from what he had imagined. Now in the fancy meeting room, the woman bluntly states that the school principal tried to hide the young man's talent with sad stories. Sitting comfortably on the sofa, she finds it impossible that such a weak school could have produced such a raw genius without any prior warning. Confused by the special treatment, the young man asks why he was called there, since he only wanted his allowance and the promised technique. The blonde tells him to relax while having a drink, assuring him that the staff is already handling all the boring paperwork. She stands up stylishly, stating that she will teach him the technique personally, and asks what he knows about the subject. Thoughtfully, the kid says that the school books teach that these skills are only for absorbing energy from the world. The president agrees in part but generates a flame in her hands, showing that these techniques are much more than simple meditation. Increasing the flame, she explains that the celestial flame strengthens the body and greatly enhances the lethality of all his physical attacks. With a rough movement, she projects the heat, firing a gigantic wave of fire that scorches the air in front of the kid. Our hero is left stunned on the sofa, as the school never mentioned that the technique was for actual fighting. The woman lists the 7 main energy elements, pointing out that thunder power is the best of all for causing damage. To conclude the lesson, she crosses her legs and warns that no one chooses their technique, as it all depends purely on physical compatibility. The president holds a glowing crystal ball, explaining that it tests compatibility. The brighter it glows, the higher the level, and 80% is already very high. Handing the unlit object to the kid, she trusts that a genius like him will surely surpass 30%. Holding the crystal ball, our hero thinks reaching 80% is an exaggeration, since the president herself is a prodigy and stopped at that mark. Suddenly, a blinding red light explodes from the object in his hands. The intense glow fills the entire room, leaving the woman shocked to see that his fire compatibility has reached 100%. She then asks if the kid has any idea what this means, and he says no. The blonde explains that he can absorb all fire energy without wasting any of it. Using herself as an example, she recalls that she loses 2/10 of the energy, but that was enough to become a level 5 martial artist. Staring closely at the young man, the president guarantees that his future will be even greater. Amazed that a small city could produce such a monster, however, Su-hong reflects that fire is cool, but he much prefers the thunder element. Just then, the crystal ball changes color and begins to crackle with strong, yellow electric energy. The entire room is filled with lightning, as the two remain in absolute silence, just staring at the glowing object. Breaking the tense atmosphere, the kid awkwardly comments that his affinity with thunder also seems to be at its maximum. The blonde is in complete disbelief at the possibility of a perfect dual affinity, calling the kid a freak of nature. Soon after, Su-hong is already holding the crystal with a green light, announcing that the wind element has also hit 100%. The shock is so great that a heavy silence dominates the luxurious office as they both sit on the sofa. Holding her head, the blonde tries to process the absurdity of all his affinities being at their maximum, thinking she must be dreaming. The woman remembers when she considered herself a top-tier prodigy, an extreme rarity in the martial world. But faced with someone who defies all logic and common sense, she finally understands that she is just an ordinary person. She concludes that to defeat beings who break the world's rules, only warriors who are also beyond common sense have any chance of victory. Watching the kid relaxed on the sofa, the president reflects that he is one of those anomalies, incomprehensible to normal people. Meanwhile, the young man thinks it's a huge waste to focus only on thunder and leave the other 6 perfect elements aside. With this in mind, he asks for a copy of the techniques for all 7 attributes, leaving the woman completely silent. Annoyed, she scolds him, saying that human energy has its limits, and trying to train everything at once results in total failure. Our hero insists he wants to test them all before choosing his focus, making the blonde give in, but with a warning not to waste his talent. Changing the subject, Su-hong asks the reason for her sudden interest in him, mentioning that the school's monthly exam is coming up. The blonde explains that the war against the beasts is getting worse, so the nations are opening a genius training camp, and she wants to recommend him for a spot. Later, the kid stares at his system screen, curious to know how he will manage to evolve these new guidance techniques. Trying to improve the skill, the panel beeps, indicating a lack of martial points, making the young man decide to focus on gathering more resources later. Back in his room, he sits on the floor meditating, surrounded by the glowing manuals, beginning his new advanced training. Several hours later, the energy of the 7 elements flows through the kid's body, but the different attributes begin to repel each other violently. Sweating in pain, our hero finally understands why geniuses spent decades stuck at level 1 when trying to cultivate everything at once. Now on the rooftop at night, he holds flames in his hand and realizes that spiritual energies only allow the use of one element at a time. Trying to force the use of a second attribute simultaneously, His body begins to reject the unstable mixture. The repulsive force causes a bright explosion, making the two powers clash aggressively and disappear into the air. Keeping his cool, he generates thunder and fire in his hands, concluding that similar natures might be able to be fused. With a quick movement, the young man claps his hands together, trying to force the pure union of the two volatile elements at once. A series of explosions illuminates the building's rooftop, but he doesn't give up and vows to keep trying until he succeeds. The entire night passes, and the morning sun finally rises over the city's apartment complex. Completely exhausted and panting, he observes a small, stabilized spark in his hands and focuses on keeping the unified form together. Pushing his own limits, the MC shouts furiously, demanding that the colossal energy fuse once and for all. A violent boom echoes as the flames and lightning finally intertwine into a single mass of pure, destructive power. Observing the sphere of electric fire in his palm, he celebrates his success after a whole night of repeated failures. Thrilled with his new lethal weapon, the kid clenches his fist and decides to hit the streets to test the true damage of this fusion. The scene quickly shifts to the grand martial arts plaza of Star City. Bathed in the tranquil morning light, the MC approaches a level 3 test robot, confident that this advanced machine won't break so easily from the impacts. He unleashes an explosive punch on the equipment, remembering that he used half his strength before, so now he'll test with only 30%. The scoreboard shows over 2,300 points, surprising our hero, who expected a much lower result. Assessing the damage, he conjures only the thunder energy to compare the absurd power difference in his hand. Next, he generates the aggressive fusion of the two elements again to confirm the raw increase in strength. Without breaking his rhythm, the kid sinks another devastating attack covered in lightning and flames straight into the metal target. The machine soon beeps, breaking the 3,000 point mark, leaving the young man quite impressed with the numbers. He concludes that by using just a fraction of his strength with the fusion, he already surpasses an advanced level artist, despite his low vitality. His imagination runs wild, thinking about the apocalyptic power he could achieve if he managed to combine all 7 elements into a single blow. Excited by the idea, our hero extinguishes the flame in his hand and decides to rush back home to try fusing the third attribute. Back on the isolated rooftop, the young man sits on the ground to restart the intense and tiring meditation. Sweating profusely and shirtless, he laments that the difficulty has multiplied absurdly, and he hasn't made any progress with the new mixture. Looking at the glowing panel, Su-hong reflects that leveling up the techniques might facilitate the process, planning to gather a lot of points in tomorrow's exam. The next day, the school court is completely packed at dawn, with all the students lined up on the lawn for the big event. On the stage, the principal announces that due to the war's tension, the exam will be different to select the best for a special genius camp. In the crowd, students gossip excitedly about the massive resources, pills, and high-level instructors the camp will offer. The cocky purple-haired student shouts excitedly that he wants a spot, while the others compare the instructor's level to the principal's. With a bored expression, Su-hong listens to the rules for the 3 spots and wonders if it wouldn't be better to just secure first place right away. Nearby, a guy confesses they don't stand a chance, since the rich kids have mastered the Thunder Fist and become martial artists. A teacher comments that the principal even brought in an advanced master to give private lessons and focus entirely on these special talents. Staring at the MC with a sneer, his dojo rival promises to show who the real genius is and hopes the rookie doesn't lose his confidence. Outside the arena, the principal walks around frustrated, confessing he couldn't find the 9-boom genius anywhere. Suddenly, the old man's gaze turns strangely toward a group approaching in the school courtyard. He greets old Lee with irony, asking why his colleague is walking around with a long face like he just lost his wife. The visitor criticizes the quality of the local students and announces that he has brought his own disciples to humiliate the tournament's champion. Annoyed by the blatant provocation, the principal realizes that refusing the challenge would be signing a confession of cowardice in front of everyone. Inside the arena, Su-hong easily knocks out his opponent with a crushing kick right to the chest. Watching from the stands, the principal is perplexed, asking where this very strong student, who wasn't in his classes, came from. The teacher in charge takes the blame for his negligence, while the rival, old Lee, strokes his chin, finding the kid quite familiar. Quickly changing the mood, the principal cheerfully announces that the semifinal between the other favorite students is about to conclude in the main ring. The semifinal fight rages on with both competitors trading swift blows. The audience watches the exchange, commenting that it's impossible to predict who will come out on top. Just then, Chen Shan channels icy energy and warns his opponent that he doesn't stand a chance unless he also uses his strongest attack. Without backing down, the other fighter charges forward, cutting through the air and throwing a punch to meet his enemy's attack head on. Chen Shan praises his rival's training but guarantees he's still the number 1 in school as he advances with a flaming fist. The stands are shocked to see the kid's attribute projection They comment that the fire element is second only to the thunder element in power. But his rival scoffs at the situation, asking who doesn't know how to do that, right before unleashing his own intense energy. The students immediately recognize Li Tu's power and realize his metal element is much stronger than fire in direct combat. Taking advantage of the elemental superiority, the outsider completely shatters his opponent's flaming defense with a crushing attack. Following up the combo, Li Tu prepares the Thunder Fist technique to finish the job with 5 consecutive booms. The electric impact hits Chen Shan squarely, sending the poor guy flying violently against the arena floor. Watching it all, the principal laments that the newcomer hit his true strength. He's impressed that the boy mastered so much in just 10 days. Old Li taunts him, saying Su Hong has no chance in the final against his disciple, unless he also knows a guidance technique. Annoyed by the arrogance, another teacher bets 50,000 on the MC's victory. Old Li accepts the easy money on the spot. Soon, the announcer calls the grand final showdown in the center of the ring. The masters shout from the stands, telling their students to win at all costs. Facing our hero, Li Tu claims he was very lucky they didn't cross paths sooner, already assuming his offensive stance, crackling with lightning. Totally relaxed, Su Hong comments that the regular students are too weak, and someone worthy of training with has finally appeared. The outsider is furious with the taunt and tells our hero to be content with second place. But the kid sarcastically asks who would be in first. Losing his patience completely, Li Tu dashes toward his opponent, shouting with absolute certainty that he will be the champion. He charges his electric technique to the max, warning that he only needs a single blow to show the absurd power difference between them. The crowd is in shock, seeing the advanced attack so early in the fight, and they're certain of the MC's humiliating defeat. Without showing a hint of fear, our hero's eyes gleam intensely with a terrifying energy. Channeling immense power into his fist, the kid charges forward, determined to test the current limits of his own body once and for all. The students scream in despair, thinking it's complete madness for their classmate to try and meet that lethal impact head-on without dodging. But the two opponents clash sharply in a mind-blowing sequence of swift blows in the center of the arena. Exploiting a minuscule opening, the MC breaks his enemy's guard, tearing through the electric defense with sheer brute force. Li Tu is completely stunned, realizing his 5 booms were neutralized as if they were absolutely nothing. With a devastating explosion, Su Hong sends his arrogant rival flying through the air like a rag doll in a storm of energy. Falling helplessly, the outsider feels his body is wrecked and acknowledges that the kid's attacks are as heavy as a monster's. The entire gym agrees that the rookie's power is bizarre for being able to nullify such an advanced technique using only physical strength. The principal lets out a loud laugh from the stands, extremely satisfied to confirm that his school has produced a genius with a special physical constitution. Breaking into a cold sweat, Old Li tries to maintain his composure, arguing that brute force isn't enough, since his disciple has mastered an element and still holds the advantage. Down in the ring, Li Tu slides across the court floor, trying to regain his balance after taking that absurd blow. Covered in intense lightning, the outsider shouts for our hero to get off his high horse, promising he'll still walk away with the victory. Consumed by hatred, he dashes forward, tearing through the air in an aggressive attack, and challenges the MC to try and stop him. Facing the danger with a bored expression, the kid regrets that his rival resorted to his trump card so quickly when he just wanted to test a purely physical exchange. Deciding not to hold back anymore, our hero clenches his fist, summoning a golden storm of pure electric energy around him. Later, the sunset illuminates the apartment complex as the young man arrives home, announcing to his aunt and uncle that he's finally back. His uncle greets his nephew excitedly and immediately asks about the exam results. With a wide grin, he announces he took first place. His aunt can hardly believe the incredible achievement. Her husband celebrates, understanding that this victory secures the long-awaited spot in the special camp. However, in the midst of the family's cheerful celebration, loud knocks on the door interrupt their dinner, catching the kid's attention. When he opens the door, he comes face to face with a very well-dressed woman standing in the hallway, looking for the owner of the house. Confused by the unexpected visit from this rich lady, the MC bluntly asks who she is. The snob explains that her son placed 4th in school, and she has come personally to ask our hero to give up his spot in the camp. With the utmost arrogance, she immediately offers 30,000 coins, trying to buy his ranking. Staring at the dirty bribe right at their doorstep, the mood soars, and the kid's entire family glares at the woman's audacity. Annoyed by their silent refusal, the snob tries to intimidate them, saying people die at the camp, and that giving up is for his own good. After spitting her venomous truths, the woman turns her back and walks away down the building's hallway, thinking she's in the right. Inside, his aunt hugs her nephew's arm and asks, terrified, if that place is really so dangerous. His uncle tries to calm his wife down, asking her to take a deep breath and not fall for the arrogant rich lady's nonsense. Looking at the kid with complete seriousness, the older man asks if he can guarantee his own survival in this challenge. Without a moment's hesitation, the MC returns a look full of confidence, vowing he will come back alive. The uncle gently scolds his wife for doubting the boy, and affirms that his nephew is old enough to make his own decisions. Overwhelmed with worry about the danger, the woman can't handle the pressure of the moment, and flees into the bedroom in tears. Meanwhile outside, the snob walks away, muttering indignantly and wishing for the kid to be eliminated from the training quickly. Back in the simple living room, Soo-hong apologizes for not telling them about the dangers sooner, but his uncle assures him it's okay. Being very understanding, the veteran admits he's a simple man and guarantees his full support, since the young man knows what's best for his future. Just then, his aunt returns, smacking her husband for talking nonsense, and tearfully begs her nephew to just focus on coming back safely. Feeling the weight of that pure and genuine love, the kid gives a calm smile and agrees with the woman's caring concern. Later on the edge of the rooftop, our hero watches the night fall and vows that he must become stronger and stronger to protect his precious family. Analyzing the glowing system screen, he realizes he's accumulated almost 300 martial points, but knows it's still not nearly enough. Soo-hong reflects that he has no idea what techniques the geniuses at the camp have mastered, so he decides to spend his points on upgrading his physical frame first. Soon, the kid's body begins to expand violently, creating absurd muscles that tear through the air with brutal red energy. Taking a deep breath as he returns to normal, he watches his mark reach almost 65% and wonders what comes after the limit. Suddenly, the panel notifies him that his guidance techniques have leveled up to 2 on their own, leaving him completely confused as to how it happened. Analyzing the strange situation, our hero concludes that since he's only trained the basics for the past few days, the power must evolve passively with natural cultivation. Thrilled with the useful discovery, he decides to pick up the pace and summons flames and lightning to his hands, wanting to force another level up. The night slowly advances over the silent metropolis until the first rays of sun begin to illuminate the tallest buildings. Completely focused on his intense meditation, the young fighter reaches level 3, mastering the elements with a destructive aura around him. Checking the final results on the screen, he celebrates that in addition to his skills level, his vitality has also increased, yielding a great harvest. That same sunny morning, the travel preparations begin early outside the humble apartment complex. With his backpack on, the kid hears his uncle telling him to bring back first place as he says goodbye to his family, heading off to the challenge. The couple watches their nephew walk down the quiet street, carrying the weight of all their expectations and dreams in one place. The man tries to hide his sadness at the farewell, but his aunt cries, confessing she just didn't want to worry the boy needlessly. Carrying his long bag with the spear, Soo-hong walks through the bustling streets of the commercial center with the posture of a true warrior. Keeping his eyes focused on his great objective, the MC moves forward, knowing that the genius camp will be the ultimate test of his life. Walking with determination through the streets, Soo-hong carries his spear as he heads to the training camp's meeting point. Suddenly, a red sports car screeches to a halt right in front of the MC, cutting him off. Rolling down the window, President Wu Lingshan appears in dark sunglasses and casually tells the kid to get in the car. They soon hit the open road, leaving the big city behind at high speed, heading for the great challenge. Their destination is the imposing Tianlin mountain range, a gigantic chain of mountains stretching across the horizon. In the back seat, a boy panics as he remembers that the mountain range is home to entire herds of brutal monsters. A classmate tries to calm him down, assuring him of the location's safety, but then recalls that deep within live beasts on par with a grandmaster. The scene then shows the region's cruel wildlife, indicating that the competition among the monsters there is extremely savage. The aggressiveness of these creatures is so absurd that not even a level 2 martial artist would dare to easily set foot in this territory. The van moves along a narrow dirt road, delving deeper and deeper into the dense and dark part of the forest. Hidden in the darkness among the trees, several glowing red eyes watch the vehicle pass with pure murderous intent. Feeling the heavy atmosphere, one of the students comments that he's being watched and asks in terror if they're about to be ambushed right there. Instead of feeling fear, Soo-hong concludes that the competition among the geniuses will be as fierce as that of the monsters, and he finds it all exciting. A short time later, the group finally arrives at the immense, fenced-in military camp, already packed with competitors from various cities. Getting out of the vehicle, our hero observes the crowd of talented young people, wondering what their true strength levels might be. The training area is filled with prodigies, all exuding great confidence and carrying heavy weapons for the tournament. Faced with so many tough-looking people, the MC's classmates swallow hard, feeling the crushing pressure of the brutal competition. On the contrary, the young fighter is excited, thinking it's great to have so many strong opponents gathered in one place. Without wasting any time, he adjusts the spear on his shoulder, and calls for the group to join the crowd in the center of the evaluation courtyard. His classmates agree somewhat hesitantly and follow our hero's firm steps into the main concentration area. A little further ahead, a supervisor in a suit announces that they are just waiting for everyone to arrive to begin the admission exam. This delay annoys some of the rookies, who complain that the rich kids from big families always think they can make others wait for no reason. Suddenly, the loud roar of engines rips through the camp as a convoy of luxury cars arrives, drawing everyone's attention. The expensive vehicles park amidst the dust, and the tournament's biggest stars begin to disembark with great flair. 3 young people steal the show, displaying their overwhelming powers of telekinesis, ice and fire, leaving the entire crowd in awe. With an air of absolute superiority, the trio walks through the courtyard, causing the crowd to naturally part ways out of sheer respect. The MC watches the rich kids pass with great attention, recognizing the obvious favoritism for that elite team. Analyzing the trio, our hero remembers the president's warnings and becomes curious to test firsthand just how strong these prodigies really are. With the arrival of the big stars, the supervisor finally steps onto the platform to announce the general rules of the entrance test. He explains in a firm voice that the real camp is located 30 kilometers away, deep inside the forest. The man holds up a wooden plaque, revealing that the entrance pass has been hidden inside the stomachs of the region's beasts. The news hits the weaker students like a ton of bricks, terrified by the huge risk of dying while hunting high-level monsters to advance. Maintaining his composure, Suhong does the math and realizes he'll have plenty of time to slay beasts and accumulate a ton of martial points. A desperate boy asks what happens if they run into an absurdly strong beast, receiving the cold reply that no one will save them. The courtyard erupts into total chaos, with the young people shouting indignantly that the rule is unfair and based purely on luck. Having no patience for the whining, the suited man's face darkens, and he shouts that the real world is no child's play. He throws it in the cowards' faces that the law of survival demands caution, reminding them that the strong always devour the weak on the battlefield. With great contempt, the examiner points to the gate, telling anyone afraid of dying to quit right now. A young man feels offended and threatens to fight, but the supervisor challenges the insolent brat, promising to cripple him if he takes another step. Resuming the reading of the rules, the man announces that conflicts are forbidden at the base, but inside the mountain, there will be no intervention. Knowing the forest is a lawless land, the more aggressive hunters soon exchange malicious glances, planning to rob the weaker candidates. Suhong notices the malice in the air and perfectly understands that the evaluation system was designed to encourage fights and eliminate half the participants. Excited by the opportunity to beat up on some troublemakers, our hero is confident in the absurd amount of martial points he can rake in by taking them on. The supervisor presses the stopwatch with great force and declares the immediate start of the test, telling everyone to get out of his sight. A desperate crowd sprints toward the dense forest, trampling each other in a mad rush for survival. Using his extreme agility, our hero zips swiftly between the tree trunks, leaving the other candidates eating his dust. In the middle of the woods, an unsuspecting candidate takes a swift, violent blow to the head in a very cowardly surprise attack. Suhong holds the wooden club over 2 knocked-out rich kids, paying them back with interest for underestimating regular students. In the monitoring room, the evaluators are completely confused, watching an unknown student take down 2 aggressive fighters with ease. The head of security just crosses his arms and orders the test to continue as normal since the defeated rookies didn't call for help. Lying on the dirty forest floor, one of the suited kids cries out in agony, clutching his injured head from the brutal wooden blow. Still disoriented, the young man gets a terrible fright as a piece of wood flies aggressively, grazing his face. While the rich kid swears heavy revenge for the humiliation, the MC is already focused on sinking a brutal electric punch into a monster. The suited kid gets up, brushing himself off, and tries to justify the embarrassing defeat by claiming he only lost because he severely underestimated the boy. His shaken teammate approaches, and the two exchange a long look filled with anger and resentment over the lightning, fast beating. Setting aside his pride, the partner admits their huge mistake and confesses that the mysterious rookie is indeed much stronger than he seemed. Determined not to let it slide, the suited kid supports his friend, promising to use that same piece of wood to get back at the cheeky brat. But reaching their target now would be impossible, as our hero accelerates his pace, running like a blur through the green paths. Suddenly, a loud noise breaks the natural silence of the dense woods, immediately drawing the curious kid's attention. He skids to a halt as he comes face to face with another massive herd of wild boars. Annoyed by the boring repetition of beasts on his path, the boar, sporting gigantic tusks, lets out an angry grunt, fully focused on trampling and crushing the intruder in its own territory. Ignoring the brute threat, the kid unleashes a series of heavy attacks, sweeping away several huge boars in a sonic boom. Using the 9 booms of his perfected technique, our hero decimates the aggressive herd in a relentless festival of purely destructive lightning. With the beasts crushed on the dirt floor, he lands softly, keeping his spear ready as the yellow energy still crackles. Checking his internal system, the kid notes that the points from these beasts have plummeted because his overall strength level has increased so much. Without wasting time, he pierces the fat belly of one of the carcasses, urgently searching for the plaque that grants access to the main tournament. The rookie cuts open the bloody stomachs of more than 10 boars scattered across the clearing, enduring a disgusting smell of mangled remains. Wiping his filthy hands, he concludes with great frustration that the examiners only stuffed the passes inside the truly dangerous monsters. Determined to resolve this delay quickly, the MC starts running again at high speed, plunging deep into the dense forest for a continuous half-hour. He complains in annoyance that he ran into dozens of useless beasts before and now can't find a single sufficiently challenging target. As a swift and direct response, a giant black tiger leaps violently from the darkness of the bushes, attacking him from behind. Instead of being startled by the feline's deadly trap, the fighter is pleased to have finally found a very valuable, advanced prey. Turning his body without losing balance, he concentrates his piercing power in his finger and fires a straight, deadly blue blast that rips through the cold air. The sharp impact slams the heavy tiger forcefully against the cracked ground, kicking up a lot of thick dust in the midst of the sudden attack. With the newly slain monster at his feet, our hero doesn't hesitate and spins his spear, swiftly cutting through the air to extract the gross prize. The clash of Su-hong's spear against the beast creates an explosion of energy in the middle of the forest. With the monster slain, the kid calmly retrieves his weapon and confirms that killing high-level beasts has become very easy now. Rummaging through the tiger's heavy carcass, he searches for the approval token amidst the filth. Holding the blood-soaked pass, our hero complains that he wasted almost 3 hours just to find a single one of these items. Just then, several high-level black tigers emerge, surrounding the kid from the shadows of the dense woods. Checking the time, the MC deduces that it's not worth hunting the larger beasts if they take so long to appear. Instead of focusing on quality, he decides the best strategy to accumulate points quickly is to bet purely on quantity. With only 5 hours left on the clock, the young man picks up the pace, focused on maximizing the progress of his physical body. Along the forest path, the carcasses of destroyed monsters show the trail of carnage left by the rookie. A herd of wild boars runs desperately through the area, trying to escape the imminent danger. Without any mercy, the kid slides among the beasts, slicing through everything that appears in his path with extreme agility. Taking advantage of his absurd speed, he dodges attacks and continues his relentless slaughter to farm points. After eliminating dozens of weak beasts, the fighter finally finds a medium-level monster and prepares a flaming punch. The brutal fire-charged blow hits the creature squarely, causing a devastating explosion of light across the scene. Taking the direct impact, a giant bear roars in agony as its body is pushed back by the absurd force of the attack. The beast's immense body collapses violently against the mountain's cratered ground, kicking up dust. A continuous pillar of fire sinks the creature into the earth, marking the kid's absolute victory over the aggressive beast. Landing stylishly near the charred carcass, he takes a deep breath after unleashing so much destructive power at once. The young man clenches his fist, excited to be able to eliminate medium-level monsters using only his brute force without much effort. Checking the glowing system screen, our hero celebrates that he's only 100 points away from maxing out his mortal body's progress. With only 3 hours left in the test, he wields a spear, determined to go after what's missing as quickly as possible. Suddenly, a terrifying gust of wind sweeps through the entire forest, violently shaking the treetops. Surprised by the abrupt change, the MC looks up at the sky, not understanding where that deafening noise came from. A colossal shadow covers the area as a gigantic golden bird soars majestically over the mountains. The legendary beast lets out a piercing cry that echoes throughout the entire valley, releasing a crushing pressure. The kid plants his spear in the ground to avoid being thrown, shocked by the terrifying strength of the king of beasts. Just the flapping of the giant bird's wings creates a shockwave that snaps the trees in half as if they were twigs. Fighting against the windstorm, Su-hong slides across the rocks, trying to maintain his balance at all costs. Feeling the weight of that aura, the young man swallows his pride and admits he's nothing more than an ant compared to experts of this level. Just then, a strange gleam crosses the sky, attracting the rookie's attention amidst the absolute chaos. The golden eagle glares furiously at a sphere of pure light hovering just above its sacred territory. The glow dissipates, revealing Grandmaster Kun Tianli floating calmly with an authoritarian posture. The giant monster charges forward, screaming that it never agreed to lend its area for human training. With no patience whatsoever, the veteran warns that he will beat the beast until it learns to agree, one way or another. In the blink of an eye, the Grandmaster unleashes a powerful kick straight to the colossal bird's beak. The impact sends the king of beasts flying backward as it squawks, Feeling the pain of the humiliating blow, annoyed by the noise, the man gathers energy in his hands, complaining that the beast is too loud. Desperate to retaliate, the eagle fires a swift blast of explosive feathers at the cocky intruder. The veteran blocks the attacks with the greatest of ease, crushing the golden feathers with his bare hands. Pressing the creature, Kyun Tianli tells it to get out of there at once, stating that he will also take the deeper lands later. Beating a retreat, the beast vows revenge, while the Grandmaster simply tells the creature to shut up and disappear. Silence returns to the valley, and the veteran maintains his heavy gaze, observing the testing grounds below. Using his energy, he projects his voice, informing all the students that there's no need to panic, and that the test continues. Sitting on a rock, Suhong breathes a sigh of relief and is amazed by the unreal power of a rank 7 martial artist. Fully motivated by this display of brute force, the kid promises himself that he will reach that level too. With the threat gone, the surveillance drones resume patrolling the mountain ruins, focusing on the candidates. In a luxurious monitoring base, the team of evaluators lines up in respect as the Grandmaster descends from the sky. 2 level 5 supervisors whisper, impressed, stating that the veteran's strength is even more absurd than the rumors. The old man tells them to cut the cheap flattery and asks to see on the screens which students withstood the eagle's pressure. The team agrees on the spot, and they all stare at the giant panel showing the few young people who didn't pass out from the aura. The Grandmaster points to Su Hong on the screen, surprised that the rookie killed high-level tigers and remained standing in the gale. A female supervisor mistakes our hero for the son of Star City's mayor, deducing that he has the special physique of the barbarian god. Another employee praises a boy using extreme agility to escape the giant bird's pressure unscathed. The team also highlights a girl using pure telekinetic powers to nullify the monster's crushing force. The old man listens to the list of medium-level prodigies from Star City but questions if there aren't any other real talents there. The supervisor explains that those students withstood the beast's pressure with ease, proving their strength surpasses the others. Rejecting the excuse, Kyun criticizes the students from the main school, finding it a shame that none of them truly stood out. Suddenly, one of the employees breaks into a cold sweat upon noticing some bizarre movement on the cameras and calls everyone's attention. The screen focuses on the MC slicing through monsters in the middle of the forest, maintaining a brutal energy even after the boss's windstorm. In complete shock, the woman from the archive stammers in disbelief, realizing that student is a true monster in disguise. Keeping his cool, the veteran tells the employee to stop making a scene in front of him over nothing. The other supervisor also panics, pointing to the data and calling the kid a complete anomaly. Annoyed by his team's scandal, the Grandmaster questions what kind of geniuses they've seen to be freaking out like that. However, upon glancing at the kid's technical file, the old man himself loses his composure and his eyes go wide, completely stunned. The document reveals that Su Hong possesses 100% affinity in all 7 attributes and colossal physical strength. Grabbing his own hair, the veteran shouts in disbelief that it's a miracle for a prodigy like this to be born in a small city. Shaking with pure excitement, he clenches his fist tightly, celebrating having found a rare treasure at the camp. An evaluator interrupts the outburst, reminding them that the kid's vital energy is too low for such talent, which makes no sense. It finally dawns on the Grandmaster, who understands that the kid is trying to cultivate all 7 energies at once, risking his life. Taking control, the old man ignores the team and announces that the candidates are already arriving, so he'll go take a look himself. Now in the courtyard of the safe camp, the trio of rich kids greets the veteran politely as he praises their performance. The area gradually fills up with the regular students who arrive completely wrecked and relieved to have survived the test. Time passes and dust colors the camp as the instructors believe all the qualified candidates have arrived. Worried, the Grandmaster thinks to himself if his precious treasure named Su Hong got lost and was eliminated. But shattering everyone's doubts, the MC finally appears, walking calmly along the dirt path, holding his spear. Su Hong walks in, covered in blood and carrying his spear, arriving just under the wire. Looking at the kid's condition, the other competitors comment, startled by the number of beasts he must have had to kill. Just then, a guy sitting in a corner says he was finally waiting for him and starts planning a way to deal with the rookie. Finding the situation interesting, the big guy in the tank top agrees while the rest of the elite group observes our hero. The supervisor then announces that the 8 hours are up and anyone who hasn't arrived is completely eliminated from the camp. He begins to explain the rules and presents the main areas, such as the gravity rooms, movement rooms, and beast combat rooms. The martial arts pavilion is also highlighted as one of the most important locations in the complex. Sitting on the floor, exhausted, the MC concludes that coming to this advanced camp was definitely the right choice. However, to use all these incredible facilities, one needs to accumulate a lot of contribution points. The suited supervisor details that the only way to get these points is by excelling in the training tests. Since it's already late, the man dismisses the healthy students to train and sends the injured ones straight to the dorms to rest. Now in his private room, our hero is relieved to have privacy to train and level up without anyone snooping around. He opens the glowing system and celebrates having earned 354 martial value points to spend. Without wasting time, the kid pours all the points into his mortal body, generating an intense red aura around him. The evolution hits 100%, pushing the fighter's muscles to their absolute limit in a wave of raw power. The red energy continues to burn intensely as his veins pulse with newfound strength. Suddenly, the accumulated power explodes, shattering the air and tearing space apart around the room. Panting, Suhong takes a deep breath, feeling his body return to normal after the aggressive transformation. He clenches his own fist, completely shocked at how terrifyingly strong a simple physical attack has become. Looking at the holographic screen, he discovers that he has awakened the Overlord body, the most powerful physique that exists. The system shows that his spirit classification is at 0, leaving the kid curious about the next bizarre evolutions. Putting on his jacket, he admits that this new physical structure is absolutely unbelievable. Our hero then picks up his spear leaning against the wall, testing the firm grip on the weapon. Analyzing the material, he realizes it's a Class C alloy and that it almost broke just from his strong grip. Lamenting the situation, the young man remembers he spent an absurd fortune to buy this fragile piece of equipment. But then it dawns on him that he got this spear for free from one of the dead hunters in the wilderness. Knowing he can earn points just by wearing a weighted vest, he leaves the room focused on testing his limits. Arriving at the training warehouse, the gigantic area is packed with students testing heavy equipment. In the middle of the place, the big guy, Wang Tiantuo, jumps easily while wearing a 3,000-kilogram vest as if it were nothing. Observing the scene, the white-haired female instructor praises the monstrous strength of this impressive brute. In the control room, the team monitors the cameras, praising the power of that immense student's barbarian god body. The supervisor takes the opportunity to ask Grandmaster Kyun when they will warn Su Hong about the danger of the 7 techniques. The veteran explains that prodigies are very arrogant, and any direct warning will only backfire. Therefore, they need to force the rookie to give up on his own. Then asks if the invasion team is ready. One of the instructors agrees, guaranteeing that a surprise attack at night will make the rookies cry a lot. The Grandmaster orders them to send a high-level martial artist to completely crush our hero. Concerned about the difference in strength, an employee warns that the kid's vitality is too low for such a fight. Without any pity, the leader states that if the kid's confidence shatters that easily, he's nothing but trash. Back in the warehouse, the crowd runs excitedly, announcing that the big guy is heading straight for the gravity room. With the place emptying out, the MC decides to go check out his rival's performance as well. Before leaving, he notices a self-service machine for getting the wristbands that calculate points. The kid doesn't waste any time and grabs a giant weighted vest from among the remaining equipment. Analyzing the piece, he notes that the material weighs an absurd 10,000 kilograms of super heavy alloy. Putting on the equipment, the fighter feels the immense pressure crushing his shoulders and admits it significantly affects his speed. Even with all this absurd weight, he takes off in a mind-blowing sprint, cutting through the wind in the base's hallway. Walking calmly, Su Hong reflects that a load of 5,000 kilograms is more than ideal for his current training. Observing the muscular veterans pass by, he wonders what weight the brute chose to use today. Upon arriving at the observation area, our hero approaches the glass, hoping to learn something useful. The giant screen shows Wang Tiantuo training in the room with doubled gravity, still wearing his weighted vest. The crowd watches impressed, calculating that the giant is enduring a crushing pressure of 6,000 kilograms in total. Staring at the screen, the MC crosses his arms, thinking his rival's 3,000 kilogram vest is way too light. Just then, the students notice a rookie struggling to handle just 500 kilograms in the same room. They mock the poor guy on the floor, saying it's a joke for someone so weak to try and compare himself to a monster. Suddenly, the door opens and the big guy finally exits the extreme training area, sweating profusely. Showing off his brutal physique, he rips off his shirt, catching everyone's attention in the hallway. The crowd applauds the display of absurd endurance as the fighter walks majestically past them. Sighing in relief, the brute admits that the continuous pressure of that gravity is truly terrifying. A white-haired guy praises his strength, but thinks it's crazy for the giant to want to compete in the movement room now. The mention of a level A movement technique immediately piques Su Hong's interest as he listens from afar. The kid finds that interesting, remembering that the only thing missing from his arsenal is precisely a skill like that. Inside the movement room, the scene displays advanced technology packed with laser arrow shooters. The audience is in disbelief to see that the difficulty level has been set to the absolute maximum. In the middle of the arena, Lin Sing dodges the shots with such absurd speed that the eyes can barely keep up. He shows off his fancy technique, leaving a trail of flower petals. wanting to prove how beautiful he is when fighting. Finding the skill sensational, our hero starts copying the movement, and the system registers 1% mastery. The MC's eyes gleam intensely as he focuses on every detail of the swift veteran's posture. Without a second thought, he steps forward, assuming the same evasive stance as the suited young man. The students around notice the rookie's strange movements and start paying attention to him. The crowd bursts into laughter, finding it ridiculous that the kid is trying to learn an A-rank skill just by watching. Ignoring the laughter, Su-hong summons the copy in his mental space, perfectly dodging all the swift lasers. The training in the virtual space accelerates absurdly, causing his mastery of the technique to jump to almost 100% in an instant. With a burst of blue aura, he finally reaches the basic level of the skill, perfectly mastering the steps. Exiting the simulation, the kid finds the technique's movements too flashy and even feels embarrassed to use it. Since he managed to steal the knowledge, he decides he doesn't need to stay there anymore and plans to go hunt beasts to earn points. However, all the students are staring at the rookie in shock, leaving him confused, as he thought he hadn't mimicked the veteran's embarrassing pose. The MC is confused and wonders if he ended up striking those exaggerated poses in the real world too. Dying of embarrassment from the scene he made, he decides he will never again use that veteran's skills as an example. Just then, the veteran himself cuts through the air at high speed, using his fancy movement technique. The female students scream, completely infatuated, asking the handsome rookie to repeat the incredible move. Away from the commotion, Su-hong walks through the base and notices out of the corner of his eye that he's being followed. The two troublemakers who got beaten by him earlier are spying from a distance, confirming that their target has gone to the beast room. With murder in their eyes, they plan to block the door, to give the kid a heavy beating when he tries to leave. Just ahead, the gigantic beast containment building rises imposingly under the tranquil light of the camp. Already inside, Su-hong observes from a distance the tense interaction between the big guy, Wang Qiantuo, and the skilled Yan. The brute gives a mocking laugh, warning that her spiritual power stands no chance against his barbarian god physique. Without backing down, the girl remains confident and retorts that he's the one underestimating spiritual readers. Hearing the conversation, our hero becomes very curious, as he has never seen this class's combat style in action. Seizing the great opportunity, he decides to watch the girl's demonstration before going to hunt his own monsters. As soon as he approaches the observation glass, the kid gets a huge shock from the bizarre scene in the arena. In complete disbelief, he notices that the girl can simply levitate in the air, proving the absurd strength of the spiritual class. The girl's hand glows intensely, firing beams of light that kill 3 high-level tigers in the blink of an eye. Staring at the slaughter, the kid is completely shocked, trying to understand what those swift, luminous streaks were. Suddenly, a giant, terrifying bear lets out a furious roar, challenging the prodigy to combat. The wild beast charges forward, but the young woman uses her spiritual power to easily immobilize the creature's movements. On the large screen, a colossal sword cuts through the air, destroying the monster's defense without the slightest difficulty. Watching intently, Su-hong finally notices that the bright lights from before were small, flying daggers. He concludes that spiritual readers are absurdly strong for being able to crush common warriors just by levitating weapons. The crowd of students goes wild in the observation room, screaming in shock at the massive power of that giant sword. The spiritual weapon sinks mercilessly into the body of a colossal snake, drawing a cry of pain from the creature. Maintaining a cold and focused expression, Yen slices the giant serpent in half, spreading destruction across the arena. The MC is floored, noticing that the girl is manipulating a weapon that weighs tons without even touching it. A suited veteran approaches, revealing that this is a Class A technique exclusive to the spiritual class. The rookies panic upon discovering the power level and ask if the big guy, Wang Tianchuo, also possesses something similar. The veteran assures them he does, as the monitor shows the brute exploding a beast using pure raw strength. Very excited by the new challenges, Su-hong turns away, planning to steal the giant's technique later, and checks his system. Cracking his knuckles, Su-hong focuses on his goal, declaring he's about to go on a real killing spree to get points. Outside the arena, the two troublemakers watch their target enter the combat simulator alone. They celebrate the perfect opportunity, noting that everyone is distracted by the veterans, and the kid is completely vulnerable. However, one of the henchmen's eyes go wide in sheer desperation as he glances at the control monitor for the rookie's room. Completely stunned, he nudges his partner, telling him to look at the broadcast screen immediately. The duo is in absolute shock to see that the kid has selected more than 12 high-level beasts at once. Desperate, they even consider calling an instructor, thinking the kid is going to be torn to shreds in seconds. Inside, Su-hong assumes an aggressive combat stance, facing the horde of heavy monsters. Exuding pure confidence, the kid flashes a smile and gestures with his hands, beckoning the beasts to bring it on. Answering the provocation, a monstrous scorpion lets out a piercing roar, kicking up dust on the stone floor. The beast attempts a violent piercing attack, but our hero nimbly leaps, dodging the lethal claw with ease. Still in midair, he concentrates a storm of blue lightning, spinning violently in the palm of his hand. The electric punch sinks directly into the monster's thick carapace, generating a deafening shockwave throughout the hangar. Without giving the beasts room to breathe, he channels even more destructive energy, preparing his next attack. In a relentless festival of pure carnage, the rookie sweeps through the entire herd, leaving a trail of blood and lightning in the area. Watching the massacre through the glass, the henchmen break into a cold sweat, wondering if that student is really just a common rookie. One of them instantly recognizes the kid's swift steps, confirming it's the fancy technique of the handsome veteran. He doesn't understand how any random student got access to an advanced power guarded by such a wealthy family. It finally dawns on him that the genius learned everything just by watching for a few minutes, proving that trying to get revenge on him is suicide. Even trembling with fear, the henchman grips the iron bar tightly, refusing to accept such a humiliation. Trying to build up courage, the troublemaker argues that the rookie surely won't survive the massive monster attack. Taking a deep breath amidst the destroyed scenery, the kid wipes the sweat from his face after clearing the first wave of enemies. The duo outside swallows hard, falling into absolute silence as they see the unlikely outcome of the battle. In a matter of minutes, the 10 high-level monsters are completely crushed on the arena floor. Analyzing the panel, the MC sighs in frustration because the entire slaughter yielded very few martial points. His gaze darkens as he quickly realizes that the stronger he gets, the harder it is to level up in the system. Just then, a deep roar echoes from the back of the dark corridor, revealing the glowing red eyes of the next horde. Determined to get everything out of the training, the kid cracks his neck and tells the machine to keep releasing enemies. Answering the aggressive command, a terrifying beast leaps from the darkness, cutting through the air with sharp claws ready to tear. Fueled by an absurd flaming aura, our hero charges head-on, unleashing a devastating punch to run over the beast. Su-hong's golden fist smashes the first monster into the ground, generating a shockwave that shatters everything around. Undeterred, the rest of the herd surrounds the rookie from all sides, trying to find an opening for a deadly strike. However, the murderous pressure exuded by the kid is so terrifying that the beasts themselves begin to retreat in fear. With his eyes gleaming with pure hunting fury, he yells, demanding that the monsters not flee and hand over all their points. Acting like a true predator, the fighter leaps brutally, pulling one of the fleeing beasts by its tail. The combat turns into a true whirlwind of savagery, with the MC relentlessly throwing the heavy carcasses through the air. On the other side of the glass, the pair of bullies watches the constant flash of violent explosions in the monitoring room. Shaking from head to toe, they decide that revenge is a waste of time and agree to get out of there as fast as possible. Now in the courtyard, the crowd praises Wang Tiantuo's performance for having massacred 9 high-level beasts in just a few minutes. One of the students notices the henchman's return and laughingly asks if they managed to give the isolated rookie the promised beating. They hide their embarrassment, agreeing ironically, but thinking they would be dead if they had actually tried their luck. Suddenly, the huge containment doors open, and the instructor announces that the camp's biggest stars have emerged. Sweating profusely, Wang and Yan exit the dark corridor, exuding confidence after an extremely intense training session inside. The scoreboard flashes, revealing 280 points for the big guy and 270 for the girl, shocking everyone. The young woman gives a competitive smile, pointing out that the 10-point difference only existed because of her rival's weighted vest. Seeing the scoreboard, the common students cry and complain that they only managed to get 20 or 10 points in the hunt. But one of them points forward, wanting to know who won the monster-killing competition. The crowd deduces that the rich kid, Lin Sing, must have scored an absurd number of points, and that all that's left for them is to fight for 4th place. Hearing the conversation, an isolated student calls everyone ignorant and warns that there is an even more terrifying monster in this camp. An hour later, the scene shows the training building with bloodstains splattered on the walls. The MC appears resting in a corner after creating a gigantic pile of slain monsters. Completely sweaty and exhausted, he lets out a heavy sigh, trying to catch his breath from the battle. Su-hong admits that hunting beast non-stop is exhausting, even for someone with the overlord body structure. Despite all this raw effort, the kid laments that he is still very far from getting the martial points he needs. However, he notices on the clock that he has accumulated 700 contribution points, and becomes curious about what he can trade them for. Just then, the late afternoon sun illuminates the traditional and imposing facade of the camp's martial arts pavilion. Inside, our hero walks through the spacious hall, watching students choose their items at the service counter. Reading the floating catalog, he analyzes the prices of level 1 healing and energy pills. The young man also checks the advanced skills, finding it absurd that they cost thousands of points. Satisfied with the cheaper options, he finds the price of the pills fair and is very interested in the spiritual focus items. The attendant approaches, fanning herself, and calmly asks if the fellow student has already chosen what he's getting. Analyzing the rookie, she deduces that he's at a very early level and probably doesn't have the money to buy anything good. The kid ignores the judgment and confirms if the focus pill increases mental power, and the woman assures him it does. Checking the paper catalog, he discovers that the rank 4 pill is the best available and costs 500 points. Without any fuss, Su-hong raises a finger and asks the cashier directly for the most expensive pill. The employee's jaw drops completely, thinking he misheard the rookie's absurd request. Keeping his cool, the MC reaffirms that he wants the level 4 pill, not caring about the other's surprise. The kid holds his watch to the machine, paying the fortune on the spot, leaving the attendant stunned that he has so many points. Changing her attitude in a flash, the woman hands over the box with a big smile, and he takes the opportunity to ask for elemental alloy spears. Night finally falls over the traditional structures of the base, illuminated by the bright glow of the full moon. The scene cuts to the modern, utterly silent dorm area with few lights on in the windows. In our hero's room, 2 flawless alloy spears rest against the wooden wall. Sitting on the bed, he stares at the glowing screen, happy as can be for having evolved more in a single day than in an entire week. The young man opens the small box, revealing the golden pill, calculating that he needs just over 20 points to hit his target. Popping the valuable item straight into his mouth, he swallows, hoping the pill will have exactly the effect it promised. With a confident smile, Su-hong points to himself, guaranteeing that he will become a powerful spiritual reader today. The pill takes effect immediately, and the kid's body glows, revealing a complex network of green energy pulsing through his chest. His eyes shine as his exhausted nerves completely relax, bringing a wonderful sense of rest. The fighter's consciousness floats in an expansive virtual space, his mind so clear he can perceive everything around him. Coming back to his senses, the kid is impressed with the item's power as the panel announces he's gained 24 points. Analyzing his hands, he regrets coming so close to the limit, just 0.5% shy of the major breakthrough. Lying on the bed with his arms crossed, he regrets not killing one more monster to close the deal today. A wide view shows the camp's giant hangar as the kid decides he will just rest tonight. The place is buzzing with activity, with dozens of soldiers gathering to receive classified instructions. One of the giants complains to his colleague, wanting to know why experienced warriors like them were called to be babysitters. The mercenary with the earring agrees cockily, claiming that back in their school days, these geniuses wouldn't even serve as punching bags. Laughing at his friend's posturing, the bald guy reminds him that the rookie Wang Tianchuo is already at a level his colleague could only dream of. The veteran with glasses shows the file, revealing that his target has absurd strength, while the skinny guy says he's going to hunt a reader. Holding Su-hong's file, a soldier finds it very strange that his partners have such strong targets, since the kid's level is quite weak. Annoyed with the mission, he holds up the sheet, wanting to understand why he was chosen to ambush such a fragile piece of trash. The leader impatiently announces that there was no mistake in the choice of soldier assigned to the night mission. The old veteran walks with his hands in his pockets, maintaining a stern expression that silences everyone instantly. Breaking the tense atmosphere, the entire team is in shock, asking what kind of monster can fight so well with such low energy. The long-haired soldier sighs, complaining that he's close to evolving but was called just to bully a junior. With no patience, the Grandmaster extends his hand, telling the men to stop whining and get to fighting. Finding the order too personal, the henchman with the earring asks if the old man won't punish him if he ends up crippling the student. The leader gives a terrifying smile, assuring him he'll be rewarded if he breaks the kid, leaving the soldier sweating bullets. Receiving the cruel command, the team of mercenaries leaps from the walkways, beginning the relentless night mission. The silent dawn covers the deserted streets and large rooftops of the military training camp. Sliding swiftly through the shadows, the assigned soldier advances across the rooftop, fully focused on his target. Sleeping peacefully, Su-hong wakes up with a start and shouts for the invisible intruder to wait for him to put on some underwear first. With the alert triggered, the kid leaps nimbly out of bed, grabbing his winter clothes so as not to fight unprepared. He quickly throws on his jacket while assessing the danger of the sudden attack at his door. The window glass shatters violently, revealing the mercenary invading the room, tearing through the air with great aggression. Falling from above, the enemy wields a sword emanating purple energy and delivers a crushing slash straight to the floor. Sliding backward, our hero deduces that this surprise attack must be the work of enemy races wanting to eliminate the human geniuses. Without hesitation, he grabs a spear from the wall and assumes a combat stance, waiting to see the real strength of this assassin. The veteran launches another brilliant charge, mocking that the brat was very unlucky to cross paths with him today. Blocking the heavy energy, the kid realizes the enemy is a high-level human and not a disguised monster. An excited grin spreads across Su-hong's face as he taunts that this opponent showed up at the perfect time. Spinning his spear deftly, the rookie calculates that defeating the soldier will earn him the exact points needed to evolve his class. The mercenary furrows his brow, not understanding why a weak brat chose to counter-attack instead of just fleeing in desperation. In a violent clash, the spear collides brutally with the purple sword, generating destructive sparks throughout the room. Reeling from the impact, the invader realizes the kid's strength is absurd and admits the master wasn't lying about him. Sweat drips down the veteran's face as he totally panics, finding that level of power surreal for a beginner. Pressing on with a brutal red aura, Su-hong throws it in his face that he's defeated high-level nobodies before without difficulty. Unleashing all his pent-up fury, our hero lets out a deafening roar as he pushes the enemy's weapon back. With a burst of physical force, he sinks his spear, breaking the defense and sending the soldier flying through the air like trash. The veteran leaps high into the air, creating a giant ring of purple energy, and challenges the brat to try and withstand his Class B attack. Delivering the brutal blow from top to bottom, the mercenary shouts furiously, unleashing the crushing power of his flame cut. The kid concentrates an intense aura of lightning and notes that this power is far superior to the void-piercing finger, even though both attacks are of the same class. The blows collide with brutality, scattering destructive sparks throughout the camp room. The force of the impact shatters the floor and sends pieces of concrete flying in all directions. Pushed back by the shockwave, the mercenary slides backward, trying not to fall. He's completely baffled, as attributes repelling each other is an absolute truth that all warriors know very well. Staring at the rookie, the assassin deduces that it's a fusion of thunder and fire, a technique he thought was just a legend. Just then, the MC's eyes gleam intensely, preparing his next aggressive move. Su-hong charges forward, delivering a violent attack with his spear, causing the invader to totally panic. Unleashing intense flames, our hero rips through the air, executing his dreaded flame cut. The mercenary tries to dodge the mortal blow, but his defense instantly gives way under the weight of the attack. With a crushing impact, the rookie sinks his spear, creating a gigantic pillar of destructive energy. Taking the blow head-on, the soldier spits blood, stunned by that completely ridiculous level of power. The veteran's body is thrown with extreme violence, crashing through the building's wall and falling outside. Standing amidst the destruction, our hero watches the system screen confirm he's won the martial points from the victory. Analyzing his updated attributes, he celebrates finally getting the exact amount needed to become a spiritual reader. Outside the dorms, the evaluation team and instructors quickly arrive at the explosion site. The Grandmaster assesses that Su-hong should have been defeated by now, revealing he even prepared speeches to convince the kid to drop his multi-training. Suddenly, a man's body plummets from the hole in the wall, crashing to the ground right in front of the group. The thud startles the instructors, who stare at the knocked-out guy kicking up dust on the asphalt. They immediately recognize the bloodied and bruised face of the veteran, who had been sent on the surprise mission. Completely stunned by the scene, the old leader exclaims the mercenary's name, unable to believe his defeat. The supervisor's jaw drops as she deduces that the rookie managed to defeat the elite soldier all by himself. Soon after, 3 more flashes explode in the neighboring buildings, sending other invaders flying through the air. The henchmen crash violently onto the courtyard, completing the total failure of the night operation. The trio of veterans assigned to ambush the camp's biggest stars also end up crushed on the pavement. Exiting the building, the brute tells the Grandmaster to send someone stronger next time, as this one wasn't even a warm-up. However, the big guy soon notices there are 4 bodies on the courtyard floor and finds the math strange. Floating in her bubble, the girl wonders who managed to win faster than them, thinking their opponent must have been very weak. The instructor cuts her theory short, stating firmly that the soldier over there is by far the most dangerous of the entire group. Analyzing the crisis, the old man reflects that it's normal for prodigies to win, but for the rookie to humiliate a superior-level fighter so quickly is insane. Intrigued by the mystery, the leader tries to guess if the kid used top-tier skills or some special physical constitution. Suddenly, an employee comes running desperately across the courtyard, shouting that a huge problem has occurred. Keeping his cool, the veteran tells the man to breathe and coldly asks if any student ended up dying by mistake. The supervisor denies it, panting, and reveals that our hero defeated the mercenary using a fused guidance technique. Calmly, the Grandmaster recalls that the kid wanted to test all 7 elements, and finds it normal that he managed to use something. But in a millisecond it finally clicks, and the old man's brain short-circuits. Completely losing his composure, the veteran grabs the employee by the collar, demanding to know if he really fused fire and thunder. Frightened, the man swears he saw everything on the cameras and says to ask the knocked-out soldier if they think he's lying. Lying on the pavement, the injured mercenary mutters, confirming he took a double hit of fire and electricity. Shaking the poor guy, the old man shouts that the only genius in history took 10 years for that, while the rookie has been training for less than a month. He lets go of the employee, screaming to the heavens that this student is a true monster and a legendary dragon of humanity. Trying to understand the outburst, the instructor asks if such a fusion is really strong enough to nullify the huge level difference. Curious about the discovery, she questions why the association doesn't encourage this practice if the end result is so brutal. The leader explains that many have tried, but the extreme difficulty ends up destroying the fighter's body and locking their level forever. Fascinated by the genius, he points out that the kid has all 7 affinities and imagines the apocalyptic power of fusing them all into a single blow. The old man imagines our hero crushing the greatest emperors of enemy races with a single, multicolored attack of devastating force. One of the instructors cuts him short, saying the boss is greatly exaggerating, since fusing 2 elements is almost impossible. Believing the theory, the Grandmaster swallows hard, realizing that if the kid gets stuck on the 3rd element, humanity will lose an absolute genius. Just then, the camera employee remembers that the MC's physical strength crushed the soldier's nearly 500 vitality points. The woman agrees, stating that his raw damage increase far surpasses the famous barbarian god structure of the cocky big guy. Without wasting time, the old man orders a test fight for tomorrow morning, pitting the 3 biggest prodigies against him. Exuding absolute confidence, the veteran swears he wants to see the sparks fly when this anomaly faces the camp's elite. Meanwhile, in the isolated room, the cold dawn wind blows straight through the huge hole in the concrete wall. Ignoring the mess and the debris on the floor, the kid meditates deeply, focused on his own spiritual evolution. Determined to advance, he touches the panel screen and converts all his accumulated martial points directly into the mental attribute. A wave of pure energy envelops the young man as he celebrates being on the verge of awakening the coveted spiritual reader class. Closing his eyes, he feels a bizarre pressure dominating his mind as a wettish aura takes over the room. Projecting a giant hand of pure light, he describes the strange sensation as if he had gained a 3rd, ghostly arm. The system beeps, confirming the limit has been surpassed, and the fighter relaxes, making the luminous arm disappear into the air. Very satisfied with his newly discovered strength, he focuses his gaze intently on the broken pieces of his own spear. Taking his thoughts further, he makes the weapon levitate around the room, celebrating that he can now use the power of his mind, just like the camp's prodigy. Planning for the future, our hero assures himself that he will steal both her mental technique and the big guy's offensive skill. The next morning, the base's loudspeakers scream, demanding that everyone assemble in the courtyard in 1 minute, under penalty of losing valuable points. The announcement sends the recruits into a frenzy, and they start running frantically down the dorm stairs. The crowd runs, complaining that they barely survived the brutal training and the midnight ambush, finding this pace absolutely insane. In a few seconds, the crowd of students lines up on the open field, waiting for the next orders from the stern instructors. Arriving calmly and unhurriedly, the MC finishes putting on his jacket to face the new evaluation. A gray-haired officer praises the group's speed, satisfied that no one was a single second late for the roll call. Giving an ironic laugh, the man confesses he expected to see several of them too broken to get out of bed after last night's scare. Enraged, a young man justifies his defeat, claiming he only lost because the mercenary attacked dirty, not even letting him put on his underwear. The officer shoots down the flimsy excuse, asking if a real assassin would wait for him to get nicely dressed before killing him. His classmates burst into laughter, not letting him live down the embarrassment, and dub him "Wonderwear Bro" in front of everyone. Su Hong understands the cruel lesson, but reflects that being attacked at night after a hellish day of hunting would frustrate anyone. Understanding the general outrage, the instructor announces loudly that he will give them a second chance to prove their true worth. The officer details that the intensive test will measure all vital attributes and even the technical mastery of each genius at the military camp. The instructor announces that after the test, there will be a real combat ranking, guaranteeing daily point rewards for the top 10 performers. The crowd immediately starts chatting, saying the top 3 spots are already taken, but they get excited about trying to secure at least the remaining spots in the top 10. Walking calmly through the courtyard, Su Hong reflects on the overall test and becomes quite curious about what the grand prize for first place will be. Demanding immediate silence, the instructor orders all students to follow him directly to the camp's testing area. The huge group of students enters the spacious hangar and positions themselves in front of the heavy strength, monitoring machines. Observing the crowd from a distance, Grandmaster Q notes that the MC knows how to blend in very well among the others without drawing any attention. Noticing the old man's gaze, Lin Sing thinks the veteran is watching him, but a classmate quickly bursts his bubble, saying he must be mistaken. Confident in his own talent, the rich kid insists and swears to himself that he is the only person worthy of the camp leader's attention. Just then, the instructor announces a last-minute surprise, promising that the first-place student will win an A-ranked technique of their choice. The crowd goes wild with the news, betting that the big guy Wang Tianchuo and the other two geniuses will give their all to win this absurd prize. The brute assesses the reward, remembering that skills of this level are so rare that even his powerful family has very few. With great confidence, the red-haired girl gets excited at the idea of being able to choose any high-level technique if she dominates the tournament. As for Lin Sing, he plans to use the prize to boost his fancy movement skill, wanting to prove that extreme speed isn't useless. Hearing the valuable offer, our hero's eyes gleam intensely as he commits to giving his all to take home this free technique. The testing machinery activates in the center of the room, concentrating a massive golden energy, ready to measure the candidate's raw strength. The prodigy girl charges forward, tearing through the air, and unleashes her attack, fully focused on the measuring equipment. A colossal sword of golden energy sinks into the machine, generating a violent boom that shakes the entire room's floor. The digital scoreboard flashes rapidly and locks at 5,942 power points. The students are stunned, noticing her strength has nearly doubled in a short time, proving that spiritual readers are absurdly explosive. The MC watches it all with great envy, impressed by the versatility of being able to levitate and create objects in the middle of combat. The luminous aura continues to pulse around the girl, displaying her perfect command of the mental skill in front of everyone. Su Hong understands that this technique can even materialize wild beasts but consumes an insane amount of mental power to maintain its physical form. Feeling a slight pressure in his own mind, he concludes he doesn't have enough spiritual energy to copy this skill right now. Putting the learning aside for later, the kid turns his attention back to the arena, just as the muscular big guy prepares for his test. The crowd cheers, calling the giant a true god of combat, placing all their bets on the raw strength of his crushing physique. Interested in the challenge, our hero wonders what the real power difference is between this guy's barbarian body and his own extreme physique. Facing the machine, Wang Tiantuo tells everyone to pay close attention because this single punch will prove his absolute superiority. The brute unleashes a monstrous punch against the target, creating a violent shockwave that sweeps through the testing area. In complete disbelief, the students panic upon seeing that a purely physical attack almost surpassed the score of an advanced skill. Evaluating the results on the screen, the Grandmaster nods his head, quite satisfied with the raw level of his best recruits. Thanking the leader for the praise, the brute assures him the show isn't over yet and prepares to use his true combat technique. Our hero focuses his gaze excitedly, knowing he's finally about to see his rival's class of offensive skill in action. A pale, ghostly flame envelopes the giant's hand, concentrating a terrifying amount of destructive energy. He charges forward, tearing up the arena floor, and unleashes a blow enveloped in a frightening spiritual fire. Recognizing the move instantly, the veteran identifies the technique as the Dreaded Bone Ghost Fire Fist. Su Hong remembers seeing this exact skill in the catalog, and is indignant that it costs a fortune in contribution points. The massive attack collides with the machine, generating an absurd explosion that illuminates the entire training facility. With the scoreboard showing over 7,000 points, the crowd is shocked, noting that this strength is close to the standard of a mid-stage warrior. The Grandmaster congratulates the young man, stating that his family will finally have the high-level master they've long dreamed of. Ending the matter, the old man points to the crowd, calling Su Hong to be the next to face the machine's challenge. The entire class feels sorry for the poor guy, thinking that going right after such monstrous displays will be the biggest embarrassment of his life. Ignoring the gossip, the MC stops in front of the equipment and confirms with the instructors that the first blow should use only physical strength. Assuming a firm stance, the kid spreads his legs and begins to channel all his brutal force into the muscles of his arm. He takes a long, deep breath, calming his mind and locking his focus directly on the center of the armored target. In the blink of an eye, the fighter sinks his fist with frightening violence, vowing that the test's grand prize is already his. The insane force of the impact shatters the air in the room, sending dust and debris flying backward with a completely absurd boom. The digital display flashes desperately and locks at the monstrous mark of 6,551 points. Stunned by the number, the evaluator with glasses drops his clipboard, admitting he severely underestimated this kid's level. A deathly silence falls over the entire hangar, with the students frozen, unable to believe what their own eyes are seeing. The shouting erupts shortly after, with the crowd thinking the machine broke, and declaring the rookie the new monster of the camp. The elite trio breaks into a cold sweat, feeling the raw pressure, and acknowledging they were very arrogant, and that this level of strength seems to be that of a superior warrior. Paying no mind to the chaos around him, our hero calmly asks the Grandmaster if he can now proceed with a special technique. Receiving the leader's confirmation, the kid spreads his feet, planting his base on the floor to set up his second and final blow on the target. His mental space kicks in, accelerating his training insanely and causing his mastery of the skill to skyrocket in a few seconds. Bathed in ghostly flames, the fighter celebrates that the fire fist suits him perfectly and is super easy to learn, The instructor approaches the Grandmaster, doubting the kid can get a high score, since poor families rarely possess strong techniques. With a smirk, the old veteran bets the opposite, eager to see the ace up the prodigy's sleeve. Suhong's eyes gleam intensely as the system confirms the successful achievement of basic level mastery of the skill. The students are in absolute shock to see the same spectral flame in the rookie's hands and shout in confusion, wanting to know how he learned that. Thrilled with the power bubbling in his veins, the MC charges forward, promising to test the true damage of that advanced technique. The impact of the punch dents the equipment's armor, generating a colossal pillar of bluish fire that cuts through the entire hangar. The wind generated by the punch's force drags the students backward, desperate to see the final score of this apocalyptic attack. The panel reveals a staggering 9,013 points, leaving the crowd screaming that this is already the level of a warrior at the highest stage of Class 2. Holding the kid's outdated data, the instructor calls the document useless trash, while the Grandmaster declares him a genuine monster. The trio of geniuses swallows their pride, calculating that to have all that damage, the rookie must be hiding a secret vitality greater than 500. Soon after, the entire class surrounds the scanning capsule, shouting indignantly and claiming the health measurement equipment must be broken. Sitting calmly in the capsule's technological water, our hero displays a real vitality of 137 points, shattering all possible logic. The crowd completely loses their minds, questioning if a zero was missing from the screen, unable to accept a physically weak fighter generating such an impact. Completely captivated by the scene, the Grandmaster stares at the prodigy's measurements, his eyes glued to the luminous screen without blinking. Putting an end to the chatter, the old man demands immediate silence and announces that the one-on-one battles for the combat rankings are about to begin right there. The leader explains that the fights will be by direct challenge, guaranteeing the class a prize for whoever remains standing with no one daring to challenge them. Displaying a malicious and confident smile, Lin Sing raises his voice in the middle of the crowd, getting the veteran's attention. Without a shred of fear, the rich kid stands in front of the MC and declares that he wants to trade blows with him in the arena. The suited kid bluntly states that he will use his speed to dodge everything and defeat our hero through simple exhaustion, since his vitality is pathetic. Hearing the rich kid's cowardly plan, the Grandmaster leans back in his chair and lets out a laugh, rejecting the idea on the spot, shocking the entire team. Surprising everyone, the Grandmaster suggests the elite trio fight the kid all at the same time. The suited kid is outraged, asking if the old man is underestimating them, while the Brood ironically says he's just afraid of accidentally crippling the rookie. Ignoring the tantrum, the veteran asks for the MC's opinion, who maintains absolute calm and says he has no objections. The giant questions if the kid really thinks he has victory guaranteed. Angrily, Lin Sing calls him arrogant and guarantees he can tire our hero out alone. Without wasting time, the leader authorizes the start of the combat as the competitors position themselves in the spacious arena. The suited kid immediately charges forward, tearing through the air at high speed, leaving his two teammates behind. Confident, he plans to land a quick hit and retreat to ambush later, absolutely certain that our hero can't keep up with his swift steps. However, the red-haired girl senses the terrifying threat and screams desperately for her ally to dodge immediately. Getting a massive shock, the rich kid finds the rookie suddenly appearing right beside him. Suhong just gives a cold farewell and prepares a punch charged with electric energy. The swift attack hits his opponent squarely without giving any chance for defense. With the violent impact, the rich kid's body is thrown far away, enveloped in destructive lightning. He manages to land, skidding on the floor, and thanks the girl for the warning, alerting that the rookie's speed is too dangerous. Just then, our hero feels a strange aura locking his body and admits it's the first time he's dealt with this type of mind control. Assessing the spiritual restriction, the kid quickly understands the enemy group's cowardly strategy. Determined to break their formation, the MC charges forward, focused on eliminating the spiritual reader first. The girl is in shock, perfectly recognizing the fancy movement technique the rookie is using. The rich kid also notices his own move being copied and deduces that our hero has a dual attribute, shouting for his partner to stop him quickly. Taking the front line, the brute tells his ally to focus on mind control while he handles the brute force. The giant concentrates ghostly flames in his fist and unleashes his advanced attack against the target. To everyone's surprise, our hero summons the exact same spectral fire technique, preparing for the clash. Taking advantage of the distraction, the girl raises her hand and casts a powerful spell, ordering the enemy to freeze in place. The greenish energy binds the MC's body, who admits this mental restriction is much more annoying than he had imagined. Seeing the wide open guard, the rich kid appears from above, delivering an aggressive flying kick. Watching everything, the Grandmaster thinks he overdid it with the challenge. He explains it's impossible to escape a spiritual reader without using mental power or absurd brute force. The veteran calculates that the kid's physique isn't enough to break the spell, but he's startled to see his expression of pure mockery. In the blink of an eye, the young man shatters the restriction and counters the simultaneous attacks from the giant and the suited kid, sending them both flying. The thunderous impact clears the area as our hero lands firmly, exuding a destructive aura. Suffering from the rebound of the broken spell, the girl spits blood, in complete disbelief that he dissipated the control using only brute force. Without giving his opponents a moment to breathe, Suhong grabs the rich kid's ankle in mid-air. Using the rich kid's body like a sledgehammer, the fighter swings his opponent through the air with terrifying violence. In the stands, the crowd goes wild seeing him block heavy attacks and break magic with just his muscles, calling the kid a human beast. With a sharp movement, our hero throws the suited kid aside without a shred of mercy. Immediately, he intercepts the giant's punch, grabbing his wrist firmly. The brute panics as he's lifted off the ground as if he weighed nothing, cursing desperately as he's thrown far away. Maintaining a cold expression, the MC lands, releasing a crushing pressure on the court. In a merciless attack, he slams the bodies of the rich kid and the giant straight into the concrete floor, creating a colossal boom. The blow is so violent that the big guy gets stuck in the cracked stones, muttering in pain. The suited kid also spits blood, completely wrecked in the middle of the crater that formed. Watching the massacre, the entire crowd's faces turn pale, trembling with pure terror. The students stare at the marks of destruction, finding that display of brute force too cruel for a training session. A guy in glasses nearly falls over, hugging his friend, completely traumatized by the scene. Ignoring the audience, our hero drags the rich kid's unconscious body by the leg as he walks toward the last opponent. The kid's eyes gleam with a predatory intensity, focused exclusively on the spiritual reader. Absolutely terrified, the girl backs away, raising her hands and begging him not to come closer, declaring her immediate surrender. The audience is in shock, confirming the absurd victory. They can hardly believe the strongest trio fell to a single guy and declare him a literal monster. Cutting off the chatter, the Grandmaster loudly asks if anyone else has the courage to challenge the rookie for the lead. The injured competitors give up on the spot, fearing a worse beating, concluding that only an idiot would try their luck now. With that, the veteran declares Suhong the grand champion and tells the rest of the class to continue the dispute for the remaining spots with the instructor. The leader calls the undefeated number 1 to accompany him and claim as well deserved reward at the martial arts pavilion. The kid is thrilled, just thinking about getting his hands on another free advanced class technique. Walking calmly through the courtyard, the old man confesses he's been watching him since the first day and asks why he hides his strength so much. Staying humble, the young man explains he has no rich family to protect him, and drawing attention too early would just make him an easy target. The Grandmaster lets out a loud laugh, praising the kid's intelligence, and reveals he set up this combat tournament just to secure resources for him. Teaching him how the world works, the old man says that from now on, he'll have his back against any problem, and all he needs to do is focus on getting stronger. Soon, the pair enters the traditional martial arts pavilion, where the veteran tells the attendant to bring the list of special techniques immediately. The leader advises the kid to analyze the catalog very carefully. Trusting the master's wisdom, the rookie asks for a direct suggestion on what to choose. Curious, the old man asks which skills he has already mastered, and the young man lists all the advanced attacks of fire, electricity, wind, and the swift steps. It hits the Grandmaster hard, as he realizes on the spot that the kid stole those skills just by watching the rich kid use them once. Breaking into a cold sweat at the bizarre discovery, the veteran glances at the student out of the corner of his eye, silently confirming that he has adopted a true, absurd monster. The receptionist hands over the thick book thoughtfully, very intrigued to know who this rookie is that's receiving VIP treatment from the Supreme Leader. The veteran points to the book, suggesting that since he has attacks and dodges, the ideal choice now is a control skill called Flame Cage. He explains that common attacks only stick energy to the body, but control spells require manifesting power in the environment, something almost no one can do correctly. Wanting to make the choice easier, the Grandmaster says he knows this move, and will do a small practical demonstration right there in the room. Exuding total satisfaction, the MC thanks the old man for his goodwill without revealing his true intentions. The veteran's hand glows with a very strong orange energy as he conjures the flames in the air. A complex cage of fire forms, and the old man tells the kid not to underestimate the move, just because it doesn't cause immediate raw damage. The leader gestures, explaining that the perfect strategy is to trap the enemy with no chance of escape before delivering the final attack. The glowing cage flies across the hall, exploding in a wave of heat, proving that this tactic guarantees the target's elimination in the blink of an eye. However, the old man sighs, lamenting that maintaining the trap and attacking at the same time is impossible for the kid now, since he himself only managed it at a very high level. Faking disappointment, our hero waves his hands, declining the technique, and says if it's that difficult, he'd rather choose something else. The Grandmaster finds the quick refusal strange but reflects with relief that the kid knows how to listen to advice instead of being a stubborn and arrogant genius. Very pleased with his trick, the young man celebrates having stolen the entire skill through the system just by watching, and he asks the master to look for the next option. Flipping through the old pages, the veteran dismisses the other styles and concludes that the only thing missing from the kid's arsenal is a good defense. He finally points to the perfect skill called Thick Earth Armor, a technique that creates an almost indestructible spiritual protection on the body. Excited by the idea, the kid agrees to follow the advice, calculating that his physical strength combined with a defense will be incredible. Holding the techniques book, the veteran asks what the student's special physique is, to which he calmly replies it's the overlord body. The old man is shocked, remembering that this is the strongest physique of all. Meanwhile, our hero thinks that making this up might earn him several free techniques. But the Grandmaster soon comments that he's never heard of that name before. With no way out, the young man confesses he made up the title on the spot. Regaining his composure, Kyun assesses that the kid's strength is terrifying for having easily blocked the giant, something unprecedented for a beginner. Suddenly, the camp leader starts to stammer, seeming to have realized an absurdly important detail. Just then, his phone rings, and the old man answers annoyed, saying he's busy, but the employee reports something frightening about the fight's recording. Hanging up the phone, Kyun asks if the rookie fought the elite while wearing a weighted vest. Our hero confirms, justifying that he didn't want to lose the points. The veteran's heart nearly leaps out of his chest as he tries to calm down, repeating to himself that the kid is a monster beyond normal logic. Resorting to common sense, the master tells him to forget the points and take off the equipment immediately, promising several future rewards. The fighter takes off his jacket and the vest, mentioning that the item is a bit heavy. The pavilion manager quickly offers to take the piece to the warehouse. With the utmost calm, our hero hands the dark equipment to the woman. As soon as the weight is transferred, the manager collapses to the floor, the item cracking the wooden floor with a violent thud. Crushed on the floor, the woman desperately asks how many kilos that thing weighs. Suhong casually replies that it's just 5 tons. Breaking into a cold sweat at the absurdity, the old man hugs the kid, calling him his little monster, and announces he has another Class A technique to deliver. Curious about the gift, the MC immediately asks what style this new skill is. The master explains that it's the Thunder Spear technique, one of the most powerful and destructive options among advanced attacks. Kyun recalls that a rival from another city uses a spear, suggesting the kid challenge his student to steal the technique. The young man questions if that's right. Annoyed, the old man justifies that the rival mocked his camp, so he plans to get back at him tomorrow morning. The kid agrees to the plan on the spot. Later, night falls peacefully, illuminating the windows of the modern dorm building. Entering his own room, our hero is pleased to see that the cleaning staff has tidied up the entire mess from the previous fight. The system confirms the acquisition of the 2 new skills. Focused, he sits on the floor, determined to master the basic level of both by dawn. The next morning in a luxurious office, Grandmaster Jeong receives a call from Chun, telling him to prepare the spear technique for a challenge. With great poise, Jeong tells his colleague to give up the plan, boasting that his camp has forged a level 2 wood attribute genius. The veteran continues to brag, revealing that his student learned an absurd control spell in just 2 days of training. In the testing area, the green-haired prodigy concentrates a violent aura, preparing his move. He summons the wood prison, conjuring gigantic roots that crush a metal chair in the arena. Soon after, the green branches dissolve into the air, turning into glowing particles. The young man complains in frustration that he failed again. Observing the training, Master Jeong says that control spells are difficult and asks for patience. Exuding pure arrogance, the prodigy Lin Chunfeng swears that in just 1 month, he will achieve basic perfection of the move. Scoffing on the phone, Jeong remembers that it took Kyun months to learn this and declares that his prodigy cannot be challenged by any piece of trash. Old man Kyun tries to respond furiously on the other end of the line, but his rival simply hangs up on him. Turning to his student, Jeong asks him not to defeat the challenger too quickly and to fake a balanced fight so as not to humiliate the guest. Conjuring green energy claws, the arrogant young man assures his master that he can fully trust his acting skills. On the afternoon of the next day, the sun illuminates the huge, isolated facilities of the rival city's camp. The loud noise of propellers breaks the silence of the place as the helicopter lands smoothly on the base. Disembarking from the aircraft, the MC faces the flying dust and comments that he didn't expect his first air travel to be so tense. The pair of guests walks calmly across the dirt courtyard, facing the reception team. Walking with a sneer, Master Jeong approaches, demanding to see what kind of genius the old rival brought for the contest. With the utmost calm, Kyun introduces our hero, pointing out that he uses a spear and is only at the initial stage of Class 1. Jeong bursts into a scandalous laugh, asking if his colleague has gone senile for treating a low-level beginner as a great treasure. The green-haired prodigy concludes that the level difference guarantees an instant victory, finding it impossible to pretend the fight will be difficult. Ignoring the mockery, veteran Chun tells them to start the fight at once because he plans to go home for dinner soon. The entire group moves to a huge open-air combat arena where students usually train hard. In the stands, the local recruits gossip anxiously, hoping the foreign challenger isn't a complete failure. In the center of the courtyard, the local leader asks for everyone's attention to introduce the famous visiting grandmaster. Pointing to the side, he introduces the kid as the great challenger while our hero waves friendly. Putting on a stern face on purpose, Jiang makes a point of emphasizing loudly that the rookie is only at the beginning of level 1. The entire audience explodes in laughter, claiming their idol will crush the kid with one hand, and mocking the foreigner's courage. Breaking into a cold sweat, the green-haired prodigy racks his brain, trying to come up with a plan to fight poorly on purpose without seeming too fake. Confident in his own student, the local master promises to teach the technique if the kid wins. Kyun pretends to be embarrassed by the situation. Jiang pats our hero on the shoulder, encouraging him to do his best in the arena. The young man just politely thanks him for the opportunity. Patting his rival on the back, old man Kyun calls his colleague a nice guy, while Jiang completely doubts a beginner can win. Without further delay, the two opponents walk to the center of the huge stone court, drawing the audience's attention. The local prodigy draws his sharp sword, telling the rookie not to worry, as he will control his own strength. He assumes a relaxed stance with his weapon, waiting for the challenger to prepare for the exchange. Completely tense about the act, Lin thinks about the absurd risk of accidentally killing his weak opponent with a single accidental blow. Noticing the kid is unarmed, the green-haired young man questions why he isn't using the spear he brought on the trip. Maintaining absolute calm, the MC raises his fists and says he doesn't need to use the weapon for now. In fact, he reflects that his skill with the spear is much weaker than his punches, so using the weapon would be a huge disadvantage. Misinterpreting the calm attitude, the rich kid gives a maniacal smile, calling the rookie a very cocky brat. He charges forward, cutting across the arena aggressively, stating he wants to see where all that arrogance comes from. Closing the distance in the blink of an eye, the swordsman focuses on his target, ready for the first clash. The prodigy sinks his blade into the ground, releasing a huge greenish shockwave across the scene. Using his swift wind steps, our hero slides backward, dodging the lethal attack without a shred of difficulty. The young man is in shock, quickly recognizing his opponent's advanced movement skill. Regaining his composure, the swordsman gives a cunning smile, finding the surprise very interesting. Extending his hand forward, Lin declares that swift dodges are completely useless against his magic. He clenches his fist with great force, releasing pure energy as he invokes the wood prison spell. Thick roots explode from the ground, surrounding the kid, who immediately realizes it's a martial control technique. The MC understands that his rival is truly a prodigy for mastering this, but decides to use his brute force to shatter the spell. Bathed in intense lightning, the rookie simply kicks the roots, causing the trap to shatter instantly. Completely confused, our hero is baffled, finding it very bizarre that the advanced magic broke so easily. Taking advantage of the distraction, Lin flies forward with his sword raised, shouting that trapping the enemy for a second is more than enough. Maintaining a sharp gaze, Su-hong turns his head, facing the fatal charge with absolute coolness and precision. With his fist covered in aggressive wind energy, Su-hong prepares his counterattack. The MC glides through the air with extreme agility, easily dodging the root magic. Lin Chunfeng is terrified to realize the rookie's punch is too fast and will hit him first. Without a second thought, the prodigy resorts to his advanced evasion technique, trying to escape. Just then, our hero charges forward, tearing through the air like a rocket, leaving a trail of destruction on the ground. The charge is so absurd that the gust of wind creates a shockwave across the camp's courtyard. Pressured by the pursuit, the rich kid tries to maintain his posture, impressed by his opponent's brutal strength. Completely bored with the enemy's useless escape, the rookie assesses that this game is getting ridiculous. In the stands, the crowd doesn't understand how a mere beginner's strength can break a rank 2 defense. Laughing at the situation, Master Jiang throws it in Qin's face that pure brute force will never defeat his special student. However, ignoring the audience, the MC plants the sole of his sneaker firmly against the arena floor. Propelling his own body, he launches into a jump so violent it shatters the stone floor. The impact of the launch generates a deafening boom, kicking up a lot of dust in the scene. A dark trail is left behind, leaving the students dumbfounded by that mirage of speed. Desperate at the swift approach, the prodigy understands that our hero also possesses an advanced movement technique. The dust kicks up as the frantic charge continues to sweep the battlefield. The MC suggests his rival surrender, acknowledging that pushing a beginner this far already proves his great worth. Confused by the sudden pause, Lin is baffled to see his opponent calmly extend his hand. He completely panics when the rookie clenches his fist, summoning a concentrated storm of flames. In the blink of an eye, a huge fire trap appears in the center of the court, blocking any escape route. Completely trapped, the rich kid is shocked to be caught in an advanced control spell. Despite the shock, he deduces that the technique will soon extinguish on its own, since a beginner doesn't have the stamina to maintain it. Seeing the scene, Grandmaster Kyun is absolutely floored that the student has mastered the cage at such a low level. Not understanding his colleague's outburst, Jiang questions the reason for such astonishment, since it was Kyun who taught the spell. Masking his surprise, the veteran hears another instructor comment that mastering 2 attributes isn't that bizarre. However, the leader breaks into a cold sweat, wondering why the flame prison hasn't collapsed yet. The entire arena watches the rookie generate a white electric spark, while effortlessly keeping the trap lit. Lin is in pure terror at the bizarre possibility of his enemy being able to trap and attack at the same time. Confirming his rival's nightmare, Su Hong states that he's spot on and prepares his offensive. The devastating blow is fired straight at the flame protection, aiming to pulverize the prisoner inside. Desperate to survive, the prodigy conjures thick roots, trying to create an emergency shield. But the green barrier is completely shattered by the sheer brute force of the enemy's attack. Using his sword to absorb the damage, Lin is dragged backward, cursing the crushing power of that blow. Taking advantage of the wide-open guard, the MC charges forward, focused on mercilessly crushing his opponent. A direct punch hits the rich kid's face with violence, causing his blood to splatter through the air. The green-haired boy loses his balance, being thrown far by the brutality of the impact. With his clothes torn, he manages to land on his feet in the middle of the arena's scorching storm. Immediately, a green, healing aura begins to close the open wounds on his injured body. Exuding arrogance, the prodigy demands that our hero not underestimate the spiritual regeneration of a wood body. Staring at the scene with great boredom, the rookie calmly admits that a single punch won't solve the problem. With his fists bathed in aggressive flames, he announces that the simple solution is to hit him a lot more. The fighter unleashes a mind-blowing volley of blows, guaranteeing that miraculous healing won't hold up. Bleeding under the rapid attacks, Lin is confident that a beginner's stamina will never surpass his energy. He challenges our hero, wanting to see who will give in first in this extreme test of survival inside the fire. Assessing that his internal energy is running out, Su Hong interrupts the sequence, retreating a little. The flaming trap dissipates into the air, freeing the exhausted opponent from the scorching prison. Letting out a hysterical laugh, the prodigy celebrates the end of the technique and vows to end the rookie's life. But the joy is short-lived as he panics, feeling an absurdly heavy pressure coming from his enemy. Covered in immense golden lightning, Su Hong confesses he didn't want to resort to an attack that consumes so much energy. Shaking with absolute dread, the rich kid is desperate that a beginner can generate such monstrous force. Knowing the fatal danger, he slams his hands on the ground, shouting that he absolutely cannot let our hero get close. In a pathetic attempt to save himself, Lin desperately conjures gigantic wooden barriers. Cutting through the defenses as if they were paper, the MC shatters the green shields with an unstoppable charge. The massive electric blow hits the target with terrifying violence, piercing any remnant of defense. A colossal pillar of lightning engulfs the prodigy, generating an apocalyptic explosion right in the center of the stone court. Lin's completely knocked out body is thrown through the air like a broken rag doll from the blow. Landing with extreme style, the victor rises unscathed amidst the heavy smoke and battle debris. A deathly silence falls over the entire military base, showcasing the complete humiliation of the home team. The audience is in disbelief that an initial stage student achieved the absurd damage of a rank S technique. Completely outraged by the disgrace, Master Zhang shouts, demanding to know what kind of freak his rival brought there. Exuding full satisfaction, Kyun throws it in his rival's face that the kid has perfectly mastered attribute fusion. Sipping his tea calmly, the old man provokes him, saying his student only took a month to learn this brutal trick. He continues to brag, revealing that our hero trains 7 attributes simultaneously, always maintaining maximum affinity. Faking false regret, the veteran gives a little laugh, saying he ended up saying more than he should have. Master Jiang is frozen in horror, trying to process the level of that completely unreal and unfair talent. Taking advantage of his colleague's shock, Kyun immediately calls the bet, demanding the spear and the electric palm as a bonus. The scene quickly cuts to a huge, super modern, and very isolated training dome. Inside, Su Hong patiently awaits the new instructions from the defeated Master Jiang in the circular arena. Assessing the kid up close, the veteran silently admits he's never encountered such a huge freak in his entire life. Wielding the heavy metal staff, the man introduces his legendary heaven, shattering divine spear technique. Bathed in strong lightning, he explains that the skill has 9 moves divided into 3 forms of destruction. The master states he would only teach this to level 4 fighters, but guarantees that our hero's talent will make everything easier. Assuming a perfect combat stance, He tells the kid to pay close attention to the first attack of the sequence. In a swift spin, the veteran unleashes the first form, generating a colossal wall of pure blue energy across the court. Without a moment's pause, Jiang executes the second technique, delivering an even more violent and thunderous impact. The demonstration continues with a massive wave of pure electric energy flooding the entire training environment. Holding his weapon firmly, Su Hong feels like he's just a small boat in a storm, and that any drop of lightning could capsize him. Master Jiang doesn't lose his rhythm and already moves on, delivering the third form of his destructive style. Leaping high into the air, the veteran announces the heaven-shattering blow and brings the spear down with brutal violence. The impact creates a gigantic tornado of thunder, tearing through the entire room with overwhelming power. Observing the carnage, the rookie realizes the leader held back a lot of force on the last attack to avoid collapsing the building. Despite feeling like an ant before this force, he is fully confident that in the future, he will also have this same combat power. The dust finally settles, revealing the two warriors in the middle of the modern simulation arena. Handing over a device, the veteran explains that it contains the technique's instructions and offers to answer any questions. The kid thanks him sincerely for the help, but the master cuts the ceremony short, reminding him that the bet must be honored without favors. Keeping his word, Jiang promises to teach the lightning palm skill as soon as the young man masters the first form of the spear. The MC's eyes gleam, knowing the punch is even stronger, and he decides to focus entirely on learning the weapon quickly. Announcing he has business to attend to with Grandmaster Kyun, the instructor says goodbye, promising to return later to check on the training. A full hour passes as the sun beats down on the huge glass dome of the isolated training center. Opening the door, Jiang casually asks if the kid has gotten the hang of it, assuring him there's no need to rush as this takes months. Suddenly, an intense golden flash explodes in the middle of the court, startling the newly arrived veteran. Our hero trains frantically, surrounded by aggressive lightning, perfectly executing the technique with his spear. He turns to the master, confessing that the style is very difficult and that for now, he's only managed to grasp the basics. Exuding confidence, the rookie shamelessly asks to learn the lightning palm right after. Master Jiang is frozen, sweating coldly, completely floored and wondering if that bizarre talent is real. Outside, the late afternoon sun gently illuminates the modern facilities of the military base. Still inside the arena, the veteran remains frozen in the same spot, trying to process the absurd shock. Grandmaster Kyun enters the place, asking why his colleague is spacing out instead of teaching the promised technique. Demanding an explanation, Kyun accuses his rival of holding back, since without guidance, the kid would never be able to learn the move. Stuttering nervously, Jiang points to the court, muttering that the boy might have already learned it all on his own. Bathed in pure electricity, Su Hong excitedly confirms that he has finally mastered the new advanced rank skill. The two leaders stare at the kid, stunned, with Kyun admitting he tried to prepare himself but didn't expect such speed. Remembering he was called a genius for taking 3 months for this, the old man realizes the kid's potential is limitless. Changing the subject to hide his shock, Kyun invites his colleague for a drink and says they've already arranged a temporary room for the kid. The dark night takes over the camp, covering the large dormitory pavilion in absolute silence. Sitting on the hard mattress, Su Hong calculates that defeating the elite trio earned him good martial points for his system. Analyzing the glowing interface, he notices his vital blood is very low and that he also needs to level up all his other attributes. Focused on his strategy, our hero understands that level is the foundation of everything and decides to prioritize his vital energy first. The young man sighs in frustration upon seeing that his points aren't sufficient, lamenting that no one else has the courage to challenge him to duels. Looking at the moon through the room's window, he curses old man Kyun, thinking the master should have arranged more fights. Meanwhile, in the dining area, Jiang complains indignantly that the old man tricked him, stealing 2 elite techniques at once. The commotion is interrupted by a female officer opening the door, relieved to have finally found the 2 leaders. She hurriedly announces that the nocturnal training invasion is just waiting for the final order to begin. Kyun spits out his drink in absolute shock, immediately remembering that his prodigy is sleeping in those dorms. Desperate about the blunder, Jiang orders the operation to be cancelled urgently, but the instructor informs him the attack has already begun. On the base's rooftops, a masked mercenary asks the leader, Bu Jinglong, why such a strong martial artist is there. The soldier deduces his presence is just to beat up a spiritual body kid on Master Jiang's orders. Joining the conversation, another recruit mocks Jinglong, reminding him that he got his butt kicked by a rookie in a similar ambush. The leader justifies that he underestimated his opponent that time and guarantees he will never make the same mistake again. Taking the front line, Jinglong puts on his mask and orders the entire squadron to attack without mercy. The group of masked assassins leaps through the shadows, tearing through the night wind toward the dorms. In one of the corridors, a soldier tells the green-haired prodigy to rest while he easily finishes the job. Meanwhile, Jinglong invades the MC's room, vowing to teach the cocky rookie a severe lesson. The veteran charges forward, delivering a punch enveloped in yellow energy, wanting to crush the kid in the first blow. Reacting at the same speed, Su-hong clashes his electric attack, creating a luminous explosion that engulfs the room. The mercenary is startled by the absurd resistance, feeling the crushing weight of the enemy's defense. Sliding backward from the force of the impact, the invader curses, confused, not understanding where such power comes from. The shockwave throws both fighters straight into the hallway, right in front of the other mercenary and the green-haired boy. Seeing Su-hong's immense strength, the other invader suggests the local prodigy help defeat the target as a team. But Lin Chunfeng doesn't waste any time and extends his hands, quickly summoning his wood prison in the hallway. Thick roots explode from the floor, engulfing the second mercenary in a green, suffocating trap. Taking advantage of the chaos, the MC shoots forward like a bolt of lightning, dodging the magic with maximum speed. In an aggressive leap, our hero sinks a direct punch, tearing through the air against the ambush leader. The blow lands squarely, causing the veteran's body to sink violently into the cracked floor. The mercenary tries to get up, sweating coldly, and realizes with terror that the rookie is protected by a sturdy earth armor. Covered in purple energy, Su-hong advances relentlessly as Jinglong questions where this rank 2 monster came from. In a panic, the soldier turns his back and tries to flee, running desperately down the dark corridor. But the fighter intercepts him in the same second, delivering a brutal knee strike straight to the enemy's stomach. The veteran spits blood, completely losing his strength and collapsing, knocked out, on the cold floor. On the other side of the corridor, the second mercenary is also sent flying, knocked out by Lin Chunfeng's crushing roots. To finish the fight, our hero stomps firmly, shattering the ground in an explosion of pure yellow, intimidating force. Hiding behind the debris, the green-haired prodigy swallows hard, completely terrified by the monstrous mess. Martial points start popping up on the panel as Su-hong stares at the bodies scattered across the destroyed base. Analyzing the system screen, he smiles excitedly for having raked in over 2,000 points, confirming he got rich in one night. The next morning, the students appear completely exhausted and bruised in the middle of the training courtyard. Pointing to the damage, Master Jiang demands that Kyun take the blame for the destruction his prodigy student caused at the base. Kyun raises his leg, blocking his rival's attack, and retorts, telling him to stop pretending he didn't destroy things too. Changing the subject, the old veteran asks if the kid still needs to learn attacks from the metal, wood, and water elements. With a sly smile, Kyun suggests visiting old friends, making it clear he intends to make more dirty bets. Over the next 10 days, the duo visits several camps, pulling the same scam and leaving a trail of defeated masters in their wake. Calm reigns in the dorm room of Su-hong's training camp under the daylight. Inside, the kid meditates intensely, mastering the initial techniques of metal, wood, and water. He breathes a sigh of relief for finally having reached the basic level in these 3A rank martial arts. Assessing his system, our hero notes the large amount of points and decides it's the perfect time to increase his vital energy. Immediately, a red aura envelops the fighter's body as his vitality numbers begin to rise. The pressure increases absurdly, leaving the MC panting from the intensity of this evolution process. Reaching the necessary mark, he celebrates that he's just a little bit away from breaking through and becoming a rank 2 martial artist. However, the rookie hesitates when he looks at the 100 remaining points, unsure whether to improve his spiritual status or his overlord physique. Curious about the outcome, he decides to take a risk and strengthen his maximum body structure. The system quickly confirms the expenditure of the 100 martial points at once. The evolution reaches the mark of the spiritual body, but the percentage increases very little. The kid is outraged to see that all that amount yielded only a slight increase, finding this physique too difficult to level up. Knowing he needs more resources, he grabs his jacket, announcing he's heading to the beast room to farm more points. In the hallway, he bumps into Grandmaster Kun and is surprised by the leader's unexpected visit. The old man asks if the student still needs a healing technique, as the scene focuses on the frigid Hangzhou camp. In the new location, Grandmaster Wang Qingshan announces that the mountain training requires surviving for 7 days without supplies. The veteran emphasizes that points only come from killing beasts of the same rank, praising the local geniuses as he orders the march. Commanded by the stern order, the students advance quickly over the dark rocks of the icy mountain. Observing the scene, Kyun retorts to the local master, reminding him that if Su-hong wins the bet, Wang will have to teach the healing skill. The host accepts the deal, exuding confidence that the rookie will never be able to defeat all of his rank 2 students. Wang even suggests not letting the rookies see the danger now, as terrorists from the celestial race are lurking in the area. With no pity for the boys, Old Man Kyun questions how they will get strong if they don't face extreme hardships in the brutal war. The Hangzhou leader just sighs, acknowledging the weight and coldness of that absolute truth in the martial world. Now in the middle of the hostile woods, Su-hong charges forward, firing his spear and promising to return alive as the Grandmaster requested. He unleashes a devastating golden slash that sweeps through the air, shattering everything around him in the blink of an eye. The violent energy sinks into a monster's carcass, decapitating the wild beast in a clean and brutal blow. Without letting up, our hero conjures a vine strangulation, trapping a huge snake in the trees to finish it off. Stringing his attacks together, he summons a crushing water dragon that runs over a giant bear, kicking up snow and rock. Walking through a dark cave, the kid reflects on the absurd power of these new techniques, but notices a serious problem. Continuous use consumes a lot of energy, but he sits on the ground, satisfied that he's already farmed enough points to level up. Outside, a mysterious man in a red jacket walks suspiciously through the night forest. The intruder stops suddenly, sensing a strange presence hanging in the dense mountain air. He finds the carcass of a slain beast, surprised that someone is hunting so deep in the dangerous territory. The man shouts, demanding that the intruder hidden in the cave surrender immediately for a painless death. With a sadistic look illuminated by a bizarre energy, the villain threatens to devour the target alive if he tries to resist. He assesses the body of the fallen black tiger, deducing that the beast's killer must have the strength of a rank 2 or 3 martial artist. Busy deep inside the cave, Su-hong judges the enemy's tone of voice and concludes he's not someone trustworthy. The kid hesitates, unsure if he can defeat a rank 4 now, even though he has just broken through his own level. Determined not to become prey, he charges out like a bolt of lightning, covered in blue energy, planning to escape the tight spot quickly. The villain senses the explosive movement coming from inside and prepares for a deadly strike. With a malicious smile, the invader clenches his flaming fist, celebrating that the rat has finally shown its face. But Su-hong surprises him by shattering the ground with a swift and cutting wind attack. The enemy slides backward, dodging the impact, shocked to realize the kid is only a rank 2 at the initial stage. The man rushes to attack, confessing with a sneer that he loves crushing lucky geniuses more than anything. However, the villain suddenly stops in his tracks, completely confused by his supposed victim's unexpected reaction. Stopping in the middle of the snow, Su-hong holds his spear and asks in a sharp tone why the scumbag stopped running. The kid assesses the strength revealed by his enemy and determines he is only a rank 3, admitting he overestimated him at first. Observing the bizarre tattoo on his rival's neck, the MC identifies the symbol of the demonic cult of the various races. He recalls that these terrorists despise humanity and sacrifice innocent people in exchange for monstrous rewards. Overflowing with pure hatred and bathed in an intense aura, our hero vows that trash like this enemy deserves only death. The cultist draws his own flaming blade, finding the audacity amusing, and tells the kid to try his luck. Delivering a raw vertical blow, the invader unleashes the sky sun cut, sweeping the scene with dense flames. Not underestimating the fight, Su-hong charges forward, determined to use all his strength in his first fight against a rank 3. The kid channels a massive golden energy, spinning his spear to invoke his devastating A-rank technique. The storm of lightning and flames engulfs the enemy's blow, destroying the cultist's charge with a crushing impact. The villain's face turns pale, in complete disbelief as he sees his own attack dissipate, as if it were nothing. Outraged, he wonders how he's losing ground despite being a whole level higher than his opponent. Consumed by fury, the man charges forward, cutting through the air and cursing the kid, stating he's just asking to die. Just then, a violent flash blinds the cultist's vision, abruptly halting his charge in the middle of the snow. Our hero slides majestically, planting his feet firmly as the lightning wall blocks any advance from the enemy. The MC maintains a cold gaze, fully unleashing the destructive power of his new martial form against the cornered target. The terrifying energy surrounds the cultist, who tries to retreat, admitting in terror that this force is much greater than his own technique. Suddenly, thick vines erupt from the snow, trapping the invader's leg in a firm and relentless grip. Desperate, the man screams upon recognizing the wood control after his opponent had already used water and thunder. With no escape, he is completely engulfed by the thunderous impact of the electric storm that devours the mountain. The dust finally settles, revealing the giant crater of shattered ice left by the absurd blow. Walking calmly through the trail of destruction, Su-hong tries to figure out if the enemy dodged using some bizarre trick. Nearby, pieces of earth magically reassemble, reconstructing the severely injured cultist's body. The villain rises, panting, confessing that he ran into an absolute monster instead of a common human genius. With his chest emitting an intense red glow, he glares at the rookie, vowing that now there's nowhere left to run. A grotesque transformation takes over the enemy's body, causing rigid scales to sprout and a purely demonic aura. Our hero prepares for the worst, finding this insane mutation crazy and concluding that the people in this cult have lost their minds. The newly formed monster sinks its claws into the ground with blind fury, wanting to disembowel the kid right there. The two opponents clash fists brutally, shaking the ice cave under the crushing impact of the collision. Flying backward, the villain warns that if the sacrifice ritual is completed, he will become a relentless and deadly celestial being. Without wasting time, Su-hong raises his hand and quickly conjures the flame cage spell, leaving the monster completely shocked. The kid concentrates the fire in his fist with an expression of pure determination to finish off the enemy. Columns of fire explode from the ground, trapping the bizarre creature in a scorching circle with no escape route. Taking advantage of the trap, our hero charges forward and unleashes the destruction of the piercing spear, tearing through the opponent's defense. The golden, electricity-covered weapon pierces through the cultist's body with a devastating impact. A brutal explosion of energy sweeps through the entire cave, illuminating the place with an intense light. With his body slowly crumbling, the villain gasps in terror and calls the kid a monster. Soon after, the creature's head completely shatters, turning into nothing but ashes on the ground. Analyzing the system, the rookie is impressed to see that the reward for killing a cultist is gigantic compared to beasts. He soon remembers the enemy mentioned a sacrifice and suspects the group must have already captured humans. Due to the imminent danger, the kid decides he needs to warn the Grandmaster as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, at the isolated Hangzhou training camp, the leaders are already discussing the situation. Grandmaster Wang reveals that Su-hong has encountered the demonic cult and they are preparing a bizarre ritual using hostages. Old Man Wang questions if Grandmaster Kyun will really just sit there drinking tea instead of rushing to save his special student. Completely relaxed, veteran Kyun takes a sip and announces that the kid has already crushed the enemy, telling his colleague to believe what he wants. 3 full days pass, showing the destroyed carcass of another monster scattered on the forest floor. Leaning against a tree, the MC sighs in frustration, complaining that he's killed many beasts, but no other cultists have appeared. The panel reveals he has accumulated just over 800 points, a much smaller profit than killing terrorists would yield. Suddenly, a danger alert appears on the system, making the kid turn all his attention to the dark trees. Walking through the shadows, a woman from the cult appears, praising the handsome rookie's good perception for having noticed her. The intruder laments that the circumstances are bad, preparing a frigid spell and warning that now he will have to die. In a swift movement, the cultist fires a rapid blast of sharp stakes toward our hero. Sliding with extreme ease, the young fighter dodges the deadly attack without the slightest effort. Exuding pure excitement, the kid thinks it's excellent that his enemies are showing up for free to give him points. The MC raises his hand and quickly invokes the water dragon technique with a frightening aura. A massive torrent of pure aquatic energy advances to engulf the woman in the middle of the forest. Desperate at the imminent impact, the cultist uses her red whip to try and tear the attack apart in mid-air, but Su-hong stealthily appears behind her, whispering in her ear that she arrived at the perfect time to reveal the cult's base. Our hero gives a violent tug with his weapon, dragging the enemy's body backward without any mercy. Being thrown through the air, the woman despairs, unable to understand what kind of monstrous force this is. Still in the air, the MC charges ghostly flames and invokes the dreaded fire fist against the target. The brutal blow hits the ground, crushing the cultist with absurd violence and kicking up a lot of dust. With the tip of his spear pressed to the fallen enemy's neck, he demands to know immediately where the cult's main base is. Coughing up blood, the woman begs for her life and reveals that the camp is 10 kilometers to the north. Pressing the weapon, the kid continues the interrogation, asking how many martial artists came on the mission. Terrified, she confesses there are 3 rank 3 fighters and a dozen rank 2 warriors in the group. Su-hong quickly calculates that he has already eliminated 2 strong lieutenants, concluding that clearing out the rest will yield more than enough points for him to evolve. Suddenly, the woman screams furiously and undergoes a bizarre mutation, growing wings, and warns that the kid underestimated her and will pay dearly. Gliding arrogantly, the cultist boasts that her strength has now doubled and is more than enough to tear him to pieces. Bathed in intense lightning, our hero decrees that the cult has committed too many sins, and that he will not leave any of them alive today. With a terrifying explosion of electricity, he disintegrates the woman in mid-air, demanding that she just hand over the points already. The panel soon confirms the receipt of the prize, leaving the fighter very satisfied with the easy profit. The scene changes, revealing the demonic cult's sacrifice base, formed by ancient pyramids hidden in the valley. Surrounded by the terrorists, the hostage students realize they've been deceived and that the enemy henchmen aren't that strong. But the hope is short-lived as the gigantic blood commander points his finger and orders the total massacre of the young people. The henchmen charge forward, thirsty for blood, yelling that they hate human geniuses and will skin them all as a sacrifice. Huddling together, the 3 prodigies prepare for the final fight, promising to take the enemies to the grave with them. Far away on the mountaintop, Grandmaster Kyun watches everything and praises the impressive courage of Hangzhou's elite. Master Wang agrees, finding their posture admirable, but suggests waiting for the situation to get a little tighter before intervening to save them. Exuding pure confidence, veteran Kyun calmly says that it won't be necessary for either of them to get their hands dirty today. Pointing to the sky, he reveals that his little monster is already falling straight into the battlefield to save the whole group. Annoyed by the arrogance, Wong asks what his colleague has been drinking to think a beginner student can face rank 3 fighters. Back in the arena, one of the prodigies blocks a heavy attack and shouts for his friends to fall back, swearing that if they're going to die, they'll die together. The giant commander fires a brutal, reddish shockwave, decreeing that no one will escape there alive. In the blink of an eye, the MC appears as a dark blur amidst the smoke, intercepting the entire area. The villain's cowardly charge misses its target and sinks into the stone floor, creating only empty destruction. Soon after, one of the cult's henchmen is violently thrown and pinned to a tree by our hero's spear. The terrorists halt their charge, completely in shock, desperately searching for whoever was responsible. Bathed in golden lightning, Su-hong charges like a bolt of lightning through the group and sinks his fist into a cultist's face. Without losing his absurd speed, the kid already crushes another enemy with a terrifying electric knee strike. Spinning his body in a deadly dance, the MC accumulates more electric power in his hands. A merciless rain of lightning palms is fired at the group, crushing the enemy defenses all at once. With the henchmen fallen around him, our hero lands stylishly and calmly asks if the hostages are okay. The students recognize him on the spot, completely stunned that he decimated rank 3 warriors in the blink of an eye. Watching from above, Wong panics upon seeing that the kid used healing magic to attack and has already broken through to rank 2. Exuding pride, Master Kyun agrees, finding the growth speed of the student who arrived at the camp as a beginner ridiculous. At the base, Su-hong takes the front line and tells the entire group of geniuses to flee first while he holds the fort. One of the guys thanks him but warns him to be very careful with the dozen advanced warriors scattered around the place. The kid's eyes gleam with pure greed as he calculates the absurd profit from this, looking at the villains as if they were a real gold mine. Furious with the slaughter of his group, the Blood Commander charges like a bulldozer, cursing our hero and promising to crush him. The giant leaps, delivering a colossal reddish punch with the goal of reducing the rookie to dust right there. However, Su-hong takes a simple step back, dodging the massive impact that only shatters the ground uselessly. Cowling for the next in line, the fighter ignores the boss and sinks his electric hand into the chest of another cultist who was passing by. The rest of the terrorists retreat, trembling with absolute dread, begging the kid not to come any closer. One of the mercenaries flees desperately up the pyramid stairs, screaming for the boss to save them from that terrifying monster. Taking a deep breath, the giant commander begins to absorb all the heavy energy around him. The villain raises his arms amidst the fallen bodies, guaranteeing their sacrifice will not be forgotten, and that it's all for a greater good. Just then, Su-hong notices something strange and sees the blood of the slain beasts floating in the air. The dark fluid flies straight toward the ancient pyramid, leaving the kid completely confused by the bizarre phenomenon. Bathed in a dark red aura, the cult's commander enters a trance as our hero deduces this is the so-called sacrifice. Suddenly, a pair of golden wings explodes from the enemy's body as he insults the human race with pure contempt. Showing off his new, arrogant angelic form, the celestial being demands to know why no one has kneeled before his noble presence. Without waiting for a response, the winged monster descends from the sky like a golden meteor, tearing through the air straight to the battlefield. Far from feeling fear, the MC gets excited, imagining how many absurd points he'll rake in by taking down a real celestial. Staring at the kid from above, the villain calls our hero an ant and questions who gave him permission to look up. Consumed by divine fury, the winged monster unleashes a swift attack, decreeing that the rookie will pay for his insolence with his own life. The MC's eyes go wide in surprise, mentally admitting that the speed of that charge is truly terrifying. But using his insane reflexes, he raises his spear shaft and blocks the raw blow, generating a shockwave across the courtyard. The impact of the collision is so violent that it shatters the stones around them, under the crushing pressure of the two clashing forces. Finding the block interesting, the Celestial is impressed that such a talent exists among humanity's youth. Sliding backward after the impact, the kid checks his own hand and admits that this race's physical strength is absurdly heavy. Floating with a superior posture, the villain confesses he intended only to sweep away the human trash, but decides to eliminate our hero now to avoid future problems. Suddenly, the angel's face begins to crack, and he curses the weak human body that is already crumbling before reaching level 4. Ignoring the damage, the Celestial boils with golden energy, guaranteeing that the peak of level 3 is more than enough to crush the kid. Quickly putting the pieces together, the MC understands that the enemy is not a real divine being, but just a possessed human breaking under pressure. Completely confident, The kid says the outcome of the fight is still open and invokes the Thunder Fist with an aggressive storm of lightning. The two collide in a mind-blowing sequence of electric blows and raw punches that sweep the entire arena in the blink of an eye. Watching from a distance, Master Wong praises the Angel's defense, but Kyun retorts that the absurdity here is the bizarre power level of his own student. The veteran is floored to see the rookie pressuring a mythical creature with just his fists, despite being a whole level below his opponent. Down below, the winged villain takes a clean punch in the middle of the rapid exchange and can't hide his dread at that overwhelming force. Seizing the perfect opening, the MC sinks his fist in for good, sending the divine body flying violently to the other side of the ruin. Skidding across the stones, the monster demands to know what the kid's physique is, outraged at being forced to retreat by a mere human in a test of brute strength. Exuding mockery, our hero asks if the enemy is tired yet, and calls him into a direct fight, wanting to test his own limits further. Bathed in the red aura of the Overlord body, he celebrates that he finally doesn't have to hold back for fear of accidentally killing someone. Staring at the broken angel, the fighter laments that the enemy's vessel is so fragile, wishing to fight the real body for a worthy challenge. Consumed by pure humiliation, the angel completely loses his composure and bellows in indignation at being treated like trash by a common human. He raises his hand to the heavens and conjures a giant magic circle, announcing he will use the legendary power of the divine treasure. Several golden portals open in the air, firing swift, sacred spears with a completely crushing murderous intent. Sliding swiftly through the attacks, the kid hears the villain state that he was the only one capable of forcing him to use this ultimate trick. In the middle of his dodge, the panel beeps, warning that the enemy's technique cannot be copied. Leaving our hero stunned by this unprecedented restriction. On the mountain, the masters panic, recognizing the race's innate ability, and deducing the enemy possesses a very noble bloodline. Master Wong begs to intervene before the genius dies, but Old Man Kyun remains calm, telling him to wait for the student's ultimate attack. Annoyed by the stubbornness, the local leader is shocked to hear that the rookie has perfect affinity and has mastered the insane fusion since stage 1, increasing the glow of the divine weapons. The winged monster confesses that if the kid continues to evolve, he will become an absolute nightmare in the future. Without any mercy, he launches the relentless golden storm, decreeing the final death sentence of the human prodigy. Facing the rain of death falling from the sky, the MC plants his feet firmly on the stone ground, preparing his own lethal counter-offensive. With his eyes sparking with electricity, he coldly announces that the angel was also the first to force him to fight completely seriously. The young fighter channels his entire limit into the weapon and announces he will use the third and most dangerous form of his special combat style. Planting his weight, he fires the spear in a monstrous beam that explodes, tearing through the clouds to intercept the divine judgment. The two colossal forces clash head-on, creating an apocalyptic explosion that illuminates the entire valley with golden lights and raw lightning. The celestial being is completely paralyzed with shock as his supreme technique is crushed by the rookie's colossal charge. With his face melting from the absurd pressure, the villain bellows in indignation, refusing to accept that his divine power failed like that. A pillar of pure energy relentlessly sweeps over the angel, generating a violent boom that clears the entire arena in a blinding wave of destruction. When the flash finally fades, only charred pieces and scattered ashes of the defeated villain's body remain in the middle of the ruin. In the center of the gigantic crater of destroyed stones, our hero stands firm, holding his spear as the great and sole victor of the battle. Watching the system beep with a huge bonus of points, the kid is very satisfied, admitting that hunting that fake angel was very profitable. Suddenly, Old Man Kin appears, running in relief, calling the kid his dear and precious treasure of humanity without any shame. Master Wong nearly freaks out with excitement over the bizarre victory, while the young man doesn't understand the excessive emotion for just crushing a fake angel. On the contrary, the rookie reflects very seriously that he was pushed to his limit by a common member, and that this race's geniuses must be terrifying. Noticing the master's shock, the kid agrees, thinking that defeating a fodder celestial really isn't cause for celebration, leaving the old men stunned. After the crisis, 4 days pass, covering the traditional military pavilion where the special camp comes to an end. Staring at the scoreboard overwhelmingly dominated by Su Hong, an envious student complains that a mere beginner could never do that without pure cheating. Hearing the gossip, the brute defends our hero, shouting and guaranteeing that the kid can crush even experienced warriors with a single absurd blow. Not seeing the MC in the courtyard, the group asks where he is, and they soon discover that the local leader is personally teaching him magic. Outside the room, the local master mutters, terrified by the speed of his learning, while Old Man Kin laughs, saying he'll get used to it. Inside the private dojo, the MC meditates silently in the center of the room, concentrating his spirit on the new healing technique. A green glow covers his skin, closing old wounds, and he praises the absolute power of being able to erase even old scars. Checking the interface, the fighter plans to invest his points to reach mental strength level 2, and also boost his vital energy at the same time. Far away in the vast expanse of space, angelic clouds cover the majestic and colossal architecture of the divine temple on the celestial race's home planet. Kneeling in the golden hall, a servant is interrogated about the unacceptable shame of losing to a lower-level human kid. Shaking slightly, the angel confirms the story and tries to justify the pathetic failure by insisting that this particular kid is a complete freak of nature. The divine leader summons the elite warrior, who soon emerges from the shadows of the hall with a cold posture to answer his lord's call. Relentlessly, the commander determines that the human boy will be a huge problem, issuing a summary execution order to quickly erase the threat. Bowing his head slightly in a gesture of pure, fatal respect, the elite assassin accepts the mission, vowing to solve this problem without fail. The chief also asks about the pieces of a legendary artifact, ordering them to hunt for the relic in enemy territory without raising suspicion. Back at the Star City camp, the fierce roar of a giant, violent bear breaks the absolute silence of the isolated simulation chamber. The brute relentlessly attacks the giant beast with his flaming punch, crushing the wild creature's carcass very aggressively. In the courtyard, students observe that the elite trio has gone completely insane with their intense training after taking that humiliating beating from the rookie. Burning their valuable points on rare items, the group locks themselves in the combat rooms and achieves the terrifying feat of rapidly breaking through to the next level. Even the rich kid gains a lot of muscle mass, bellowing like a wild beast, focused only on evolving to avenge his defeat. Very confident, the elite trio eagerly awaits our hero's return for a rematch. Just then, Grandmaster Kyun finally returns to the camp, walking alone through the area. The instructor immediately asks about the kid, and the veteran explains that he wanted to train a bit more in the forest. Worried, the man recalls that the camp ends in a few days, but Kyun assures him the kid is no fool. 2 days pass and a gigantic snake rests on top of a rocky cliff. Su-hong continues to meditate intensely, relentlessly farming dozens of mental points. The wild beast notices the kid's presence and strikes violently, wanting to devour him by surprise. Maintaining absolute calm, the MC simply raises his hand, releasing a strong, bright energy. The monster is completely paralyzed in mid-air under the effect of the invisible containment spell. Very relaxed, the fighter invokes his spiritual weapon condensation technique to test out the new skill. A giant sword of pure golden light materializes in the air, controlled only by his mind. The spiritual blade spins, cutting through the wind with absurd and terrifying speed. Without the slightest effort, the weapon sinks into the creature, slicing through the snake's tough carcass instantly. The kid finds the destructive power of the level 2 mental class truly frightening. Bathed in different energies, he notes that his mental advancement now allows him to fuse 3 attributes at once. Combining flames, thunder, and metal, the energies collide and become extremely volatile in his hands. The repulsive force spirals completely out of control, generating a dangerous flash right in our hero's face. A devastating explosion shatters the scenery, sending gigantic rocks flying in all directions. Emerging from the smoke, the rookie coughs, covered in dust, and concludes that even a failure can injure a level 4 warrior. After the commotion, he picks up his weapon and calmly walks back to the military base. As soon as our hero sets foot in the camp, the crowd immediately shouts to inform the brute of his return. Grandmaster Kyun crosses his arms, asking if the trio is really so sure of victory this time. Exuding arrogance, the Prodigy team guarantees they will absolutely crush the kid. Arriving at the training arena, the rookie faces the big guy, asking if the challenge is for real. The brute flexes his muscles, announcing that all 3 of them have reached level 2, and he can win on his own now. Acting very casually, the MC stammers and tries to explain his current situation. Unleashing a monstrous red aura, the kid reveals that he also reached level 2 during his trip. The trio is in shock, but the girl stands her ground, stating that she is also an advanced spiritual reader. Su-hong doesn't even entertain it, and quickly invokes the art of weapon condensation right in the sky. A colossal sword of light descends with full force, shaking the entire courtyard. Caught by surprise, the young spiritual reader is thrown backward by the gust from the blow. The MC paralyzes the giant blade just centimeters before it crushes the trio and apologizes for the scare. Bathed in mental power, he casually confesses that he also became a level 2 spiritual reader. The team breaks into a cold sweat, terrified as they tally up all the kids' stolen skills at such a high power level. Looking towards the stands, our hero suggests the rest of the class join the fight to yield more points. Wielding his spear challengingly, he calls out the entire camp for a direct fight. The rich kid backs down on the spot, while the rest of the crowd desperately begs him not to come closer. Watching from a distance, the instructor complains that the Grandmaster hid the kid's spiritual magic from them. Old man Kyun is completely speechless, as he also had no idea about this hidden talent. Soon, the veteran lets out a scandalous laugh, celebrating that humanity has found a millennial monster. With the students getting beaten badly, the instructor asks if they should intervene, but Kyun thinks it's great to let the youth burn bright. Suddenly, the old leader looks up, feeling a heavy aura tearing through the military base's sky. The colossal golden eagle soars over the place, bellowing that the 30 days are up and telling the humans to get lost. Surrounded by knocked-out students, the MC recognizes the giant monster from the windstorm on the first day. Floating up to the sky, Kyun unleashes an intimidating purple aura, warning that his patience with the beast has run out. The veteran faces the creature as an equal, announcing that they will leave when they please and do not take orders. Furious with the disrespect, the golden bird screams that it has no fear of the Grandmaster. The beast fires an overwhelming, destructive beam that engulfs the air in the old man's direction. Observing the exchange of blows, Suhong swallows hard, feeling the absurd heat of this true battle of gods. The eagle tells the old man to stop, claiming to have powerful backup, but Kyun promises to crush the backup too. Suddenly, a thundering voice orders the fight to stop, leaving the military leader sweating coldly in the sky. A massive and sinister shadow appears in the clouds, making the giant bird look like a defenseless insect. A terrifying red eye tears through the darkness, observing the humans with deadly pressure. The instructors totally panic, recognizing the Lord of Monsters, stunned by the bird's connections. Our hero clenches his fists, tense, remembering that the minimum level of these beasts surpasses the absurd rank 9.